A slap to the face wakes our guy up. They're all mocking him, Jun Wu Kim. Same name as the legendary hero from 40 years ago, but there's a catch. He's a total weakling. What they don't know, this isn't the same Jun Wu Kim. He woke up one day in a haze, not even recognizing his own reflection. He throws open the window and realizes this isn't his world anymore, either. Too many tall buildings, he can't make sense of what's happening, and then he feels a massive spike of energy. He bolts into the street, needing to confirm if it's real. It's a portal, but what he finds is not what he expected at all. People aren't running. No, they're gathering around to watch it. Annoyed, he pushes his way through. He shoves through the crowd and spots news reporters. He starts yelling. He warns everyone that it's dangerous, but it's like nobody even cares. Then a girl arrives like she's a movie star, waves to her fans, and walks toward the portal. But she doesn't go in. Instead, she just waits for the creatures to come out. And then she starts to fight. The girl is powerful, totally controlling the situation. Now watch this. This whole scene just triggers an uncontrollable rage inside Jun Wu Kim. These people, they've turned a life-or-death battle into a TV show. Frustrated with everyone acting like they're watching a celebrity, Jun Wu Kim snaps. He kicks over the cameras, screaming that this is all complete stupidity. His reaction catches everyone completely by surprise. He's the only one not enjoying the show. He warns them, what if the monster goes berserk? What if it adapts to this dimension? If that happens, every single person here is going to be in danger. But the girl just replies that this is exactly what they learned in their classes. In their subjugation classes, Jun Wu is left speechless by her answer. She then mocks him, saying that real life is a little different from the classroom. At that moment, something in Jun Wu breaks. His eyes flash red as he asks the brat if she really thinks it's a good idea to create a battlefield in front of civilians. His intense gaze actually shakes the girl, and guards warn him to back away. As they drag him off, Jun Wu questions how someone as weak as her could be a hunter. She doesn't take the bait, only commenting that his life must be pretty difficult. A while later, Jun Wu goes to a public square, trying to process everything. Let's try and wrap our heads around this. He's returned to life 42 years after his death. He remembers it perfectly. I was gravely injured in that battle. My companions were screaming for me to open my eyes. All I wanted to know was the result of the mission, but he saw the tears streaming down their faces. So I thought we had lost, but in reality it was a success. They had won. So why are you all crying so much? He asked. That monster was on a whole other level. If they had lost, every single person in the city would have died. The reason they were crying wasn't victory, it was because he was dying. He hadn't even realized his own injuries were that bad until they showed him his severed leg. They were too worried to celebrate the victory, but all he could say was that he was happy. Happy that they were all okay, that they had all survived, and he truly meant it. It was in that instant he knew for sure he had died. Jun Wu Kim, the first hunter of South Korea. He fought bravely against Gigantiana, the most powerful monster that had ever existed. What a way for a hero to go out, but then he remembers as everything went dark. A voice in his head said, I will return in 42 years, and trust me, that's where our story begins. Stronger next time humanity won't survive, that voice echoing in his memory. It's a grim prediction he remembers all too well. They'll return in 42 years. If things stay this way, everything will be lost. The hunters are completely outmatched. Even the weakest monsters are too much for them. He has to prepare for that calamity. But then a tiny spark of hope. He tells himself there's still a chance. He's holding on to the belief that his old group is still out there, still alive. If he can just find them, he can change this future. But how? He can't just ask strangers. He can't risk exposing himself by asking about his missing companions. Then it hits him, the Hunter's Academy. That's it, his one shot. If that academy exists, it had to have been built in the last 3 decades, and only one person would have done it. Now pay attention here. This flashback is where all the puzzle pieces start connecting. His friend confirmed it back then. He was already planning for what came next. He pictured an academy to train the next generation if the war ever ended. He even gave Jun Wu the honor of naming it, an offer that completely surprised him. "Are you sure?" he'd asked, but his friend just gave him a calm, steady look. He suggested Korea Hunter College, but he was told the name was too simple. Too plain. Now, standing in front of the massive school, he can't believe his friend actually went with such a basic name. The place itself is absolutely huge. And immediately he gets questioned. What's he doing here? Is he a student? The guards have never seen his face before. He denies it, saying he's looking for someone. The old man cuts him off. If he's here for Yun Chai, he can just turn around and leave. But that's not who he's here for. He quickly corrects the guard. "Do you know someone named Bei Wuik?" The guard looks totally lost. Then he asks, "You mean?" "My boss, that's the one," our hero replies. "I want to meet him," but the old man shuts him down. "Visitors aren't allowed to see the director. Are you a special admission student or something?" he asks. Now our hero is confused. He has no idea what that means, insisting he's just a regular student. But the guard, with a strange look of pity, tells him to follow. They step inside the building, and what he sees next, you and I are about to be just as shocked. Hanging on the wall is a massive portrait of his former self. He can't believe his eyes. He yells out in shock before a guard tells him to keep it down. He quickly apologizes. A blush creeps up his neck. Why would his friend hang such a huge picture of him right at the entrance? As they keep walking, they see more pictures on the wall. Then one quote catches his eye. It's attributed to the great hunter Jun Wu. "Adventurers are 99% willpower and 1% talent." Jun Wu wonders, did he really say that? He has absolutely no memory of it. Moments later, they finally arrive at the director's office. The guard gives a knock, then apologizes, explaining that a boy wants to speak with the director. They're both waved inside. Before he goes in, the guard gives him a final warning: don't try anything stupid. Inside, the guard announces the arrival of the special transfer student. The director looks up, completely confused. He doesn't remember admitting any special students this year. The guard just tells them they can talk it out and leaves to go back on patrol. A serious look finally crosses our hero's face. He looks at Wook and the air just freezes. This is the stare-down we've been waiting for. The director approaches, commenting on how strange this all is. He hasn't heard of any special student. The admissions process. All right, you and I need to figure out who this kid is. If he can't explain himself, there are going to be consequences. But the boy seems totally unbothered, only asking if his friend is okay. The director is just confused. He has no idea who this kid is. He continues, saying his friend looks completely different, almost like an old man. He asks if Wook knows him, introducing himself as Jan Wu. The director, just bewildered, says he's never seen anyone so insane in his life, and grabs the phone. He calls security, yelling at them to get this kid out of here. No random person should be wandering into his office. A second later, our hero asks about Sun and Young. He demands to know how the hell he even knows that name. Our guy explains that Wanny chased after her relentlessly, but got shot down every single time. It was impossible to forget. Our protagonist then asks if his friend ever actually won her over. At that, the director completely loses it and lunges at him. Now watch this. He grabs Jan Wu's collar, screaming, "Who are you? Why are you saying all this?" But Jan Wu just starts laughing. "I never thought you'd actually grab me." A flash of irritation crosses his face. Pretty bold for a school director, don't you think? Seeing that look, the man immediately lets go of our hero, his face a mask of pure shock. The protagonist just dusts off his shirt. "I've told you before," he says to his friend. "Even when you're facing the deadliest monsters or the most powerful people, you have to stay in control. Never let your target escape." The director is shaking. "Is he your leader?" he asks. Years ago at the subjugation management headquarters, a shout echoes out. "What are you all doing?" A blade is pressed right against a woman's neck. Give me medicine and food. The MC asks what's going on. A man nearby explains that the kid with the blade got kicked out of his base because he was sick. Now he's desperate and trying to find some medicine. He asks if that's true. The man says they think so, probably because the young man's brother has a serious disease. Our hero thinks for a moment, then starts walking towards the hostage taker. His companion just watches, totally confused. Trying to figure out what their leader is planning, a shout cuts through the tension. The main character is warned to back off, to stop right there, or the girl dies. But our boy just keeps walking forward, not even flinching. The young man warns him that if he takes one more step, the girl is in real danger. Our protagonist's response. Completely unconcerned, he tells the guy to do whatever he wants. This insane reply confuses everyone, the hostage taker and the girl, who even asks if she heard him right. He confirms he's telling the absolute truth. Nobody would care if she died. After all, there are plenty of monsters in the city. The young man tries to say something, but the main character cuts him off. Does he not have the guts? If he really wants that medicine to save his brother, he's going to have to kill every single person here to get it. The man is shocked. To save one life, he explains, another one has to be taken. That's just how their world works. Monster or human, it doesn't make a difference. If you have to do something, you do it right. If he can't even handle that, he should just give up and be eliminated with his brother. And trust me, those words hit hard. A moment later, he shoves the woman aside and starts walking toward our hero. All right, let's dive in. This guy lunges, but our protagonist easily sidesteps the attack. In a flash, he grabs the attacker's arm with practiced, perfect form. Next comes a flawless judo throw that sends the guy flying. A curse ripping from his lips as he's slammed hard onto the ground. He struggles to get up, his face twisted in pure rage. Vowing to take our hero down, he screams Jun Wu's name, slashing out with his blade again. A small smile touches Jun Wu's lips. That's the spirit, he says, as his system window lights up. An item is equipped. Jun Wu parries the attack without even trying. He just points a finger at the man. System confirmed, explosive flick. In an instant, the blow connects, sending the man flying backward to crash right into a wall. That single hit knocks him unconscious. Jun Wu then turns to his companion. He says they need to find the man's younger sister, who might be close by. He still has the medicine for her, but his companion argues that their leader should reconsider. The girl's disease is contagious, but Jun Wu doesn't care. He figures if that were true, her brother would have already left her behind. He tells his companion to hurry, and the young man immediately obeys. The protagonist then tells his friends to take the newcomer to their base and get him some food. Wooik starts to argue, but our hero cuts him off. That's the end of it. From this moment on, they are a team. But back in the present day, his friend is questioning if he's even the same person. He just looks like a child. Now pay attention, this is where it gets crazy. He admits he has no idea what happened. He just woke up inside this totally unfamiliar body. The director's gaze lingers on Jun Wu, making him painfully aware of just how young he looks. He confides in the man, explaining that his friend just doesn't believe him. Of course he is, the director replies. No one would believe someone who was eliminated came back as a kid. The main character suggests he should explain what happened during their very first hunt. The instant he says that, Wooik just decks him. Meanwhile, a guard sprints toward the director's office, called by Wooik to remove the boy. The school's special admissions program is full of incredible talent, and he just assumes the boy is one of these chosen few. He finally gets to the director's office, announcing that he's here to apologize. As he steps inside, a voice calls out, telling his friend to stay focused. The hero is making Wooik practice his apology. The guard sees this weird scene and tries to leave. I mean, you can't really blame him, right? Keep going, our hero calls after him. Don't stop. A few minutes later, irritation flickers across the main character's face. Wooik just shifts around uncomfortably. He complains that his face is hurting. And the director apologizes for his friend's punch, explaining the outburst was triggered by the mention of their very first mission. The world has changed, our hero observes. A feeling that the director clearly echoes, who adds that all of this must seem very strange to his friend. It was obvious, the protagonist replies, pointing out how even monster subjugation itself has turned into a grim business. Just the day before, he saw hunters dragging a monster out of a dungeon. Wooik cuts in, asking if he meant the one near the hospital. He says he already knows what his friend is thinking. The young man questions their actions. The world has become peaceful, he explains, after their leader's sacrifice on the last mission, and that's the detail that changes everything. All right, let's dive into this madness. Monsters were rare, so why were they being unleashed on the streets? Our hero wondered, yelling that there has to be a limit to this recklessness. But the director calmly states there were other reasons, a lack of any real danger. Made securing corporate sponsorships tough, forcing them into this situation. The hunters, in the meantime, had become celebrities, their methods. A total departure from the real-life subjugations of the past. Our boy insisted it wasn't too late to reverse this trend. His friend, the director of the Hunter Academy, could make the changes, but the director reveals he has already tried. He explains that with the involvement of so many high-ranking officials, it's impossible for him to change the education system by himself. The main character suggests reuniting with their old companions might give them the leverage they need. But here's the twist you and I need to hear. The director counters that those same companions are the high-ranking officials he was talking about. With clear reluctance, he admits some of his old team won't welcome our protagonist's return. The MC then asks if his friend feels the same way. The director, surprised, quickly corrects him. He insists that's not the case at all. He sighs. Everything has been a total mess since he got back. Wooik tries to reassure him, saying the world is finally free from constant attacks and their leader can finally start a new life, but he's not buying it. He counters grimly, absolutely certain the final boss is coming back. The director is floored. A little bewildered, he asks our hero to repeat what he just said. Our protagonist doesn't hesitate. The final monster will return. Wooik, just as confused, presses him. Gigantiano, you're saying he'll be back. Exactly, the protagonist replies. Whether we want to believe it or not, that's the reality. Just before he vanished, a voice spoke to him, and I know what you're thinking, a voice. It said the final boss would return in 42 years. Wu insists it can't be true, asking if his friend misheard. The MC fires back, asking if he truly doubts him. He's already seen someone come back after 42 years, and yet his friend struggles to believe the most powerful creature in existence could do the same. The director shifts uncomfortably. Our hero announces he's leaving. Staying here makes no sense anymore. The man asks his friend what he's going to do now. His answer is obvious. He'll handle everything alone, just like he did before. Wooik argues that their leader isn't capable of anything in his current state. But our protagonist retorts he did it once, and he will damn well do it again. Before he leaves, though, he pauses. There's one more thing, he needs his sword. Doing this alone without it would be complicated, but Wooik explains the problem. That sword is locked away in storage, and because of its value, it can't be retrieved. The MC presses him, asking if there is any possible way to get it back. The director mentions a name. Sukdu is in charge of that place. Our protagonist is pleased. Seoku, his old companion, holds that position. A perfect setup. Seoku was always so obedient and loyal. But Wooik explains that Seoku will be among the most furious about his return. Our protagonist laments that nothing seems to be going his way, but the man offers a small hope. There might be one last option, he says, and trust me, you're gonna want to hear this. It's because Seoku's granddaughter is a student at the school. He's heard the chairman absolutely adores the girl and can't refuse her anything. He questions if the man really has a granddaughter, and if getting close to her is the play. She was the key to fixing his problems, and the director confirmed this was the easy way. Agreeing, he asks for her name. The director reveals it's Go Yun. He adds that Jun Woo probably ran into her at that collapsed dungeon near the hospital. Our main character can only laugh at how absurd this all is. He asks if this girl is really Sioku's granddaughter. The man says yes, asking if there's an issue. Jun Woo admits he got angry after seeing her street fight, and yeah, he ended up clashing with her. The director is completely shocked. Wooik, looking worried, asks if his friend got hurt. Of course not, Jun Woo snaps. He lets a few more angry words slip before just turning and walking off. But later, the weight of what he said hits him as he remembers her victory. Frustration boils over. I don't know what to do, he shouts. Now watch this, desperate times call for desperate measures. He turns back, holding his hands out toward a confused Wooik. His friend has no idea what he's planning. You need something, he asks. Jun Woo's answer catches him completely off guard. The academy enrollment form. Seriously. Wooik asks, not believing his ears. He tells his friend to just hand it over, explaining his weapon is currently with someone else. To get it back, he has to get close to Sioku's granddaughter. Wooik just scoffs at the plan. He explains the problem isn't the granddaughter, it's Jun Woo's age. Confused, our hero pushes him to explain what he means by that. Wooik asks if he's actually trying to enroll in school at his age. The question hits him like a punch to the gut. Okay, I know what you're thinking, and yeah, the director starts laying into him. Every word just makes him more and more irritated. I'm not here to make friends, he snaps back. I just want my weapon back, Wooik sighs. He hasn't changed a bit, he mutters, talking about their leader. Obviously, Jun Woo retorts, that's why I was the first one to get out. The director hands the admission card over to Wooik. He tells Jun Woo not to go too hard on the kids. Our hero assures him he isn't that kind of guy. Wooik, still worried, tells him not to hurt them, reminding him they're just kids. Jun Woo says he'll just decide what to do in the moment. The director insists he isn't joking around. The other kids are just way too weak for him. I get it, our main character snaps, already knowing what he meant. The next day, inside the academy, a new student is looking for his classroom. It's our protagonist, and he's feeling a knot of anxiety now that he's actually here. He tries to keep a low profile while searching for Go Yun, but it doesn't take long. Someone calls him out. What are you doing? A girl asks, annoyed. If you're not going in, then move. You're blocking the door. He apologizes, saying he was just about to head inside, but then, for some reason, the girl gets closer. He feels a flash of awkwardness as she leans in to ask a question. By any chance, she asks, are you the dog from yesterday? He's totally lost. She walks into the room, commenting on how weird the new transfer student is. She claims it doesn't matter to her, but he's stuck on her last comment. The word dog, she offers no explanation, leaving him even more confused. You and I can agree, the kids these days are a lot to handle. He steps into the classroom, feeling dozens of eyes lock onto him. The other students are all just staring. The boys start whispering, trying to figure out who he is. All right, let's dive into our hero's first day, and trust me, it's a total mess. The girls are all whispering theories about him, and he can feel it. Every single eye in the room is locked on him. He has no idea what's going on. It's his very first day. He tries to just ignore it, telling himself to push through. He thought the academy would be different, since he was the only one with his unique item. He looks for a seat, and that's when he spots a surprise waiting for him on his desk. A bouquet of flowers with a congratulatory message from Wooik. For a second, he's just confused. Does every new student get one of these? He finally takes his seat, muttering about what a complete waste of money this is. Suddenly, a loud clatter breaks the silence. Someone's making a real scene. It's some kid complaining and yelling about being forced to come back to school. The moment he enters, the entire classroom goes quiet. You can just feel the fear. Our hero thinks to himself, kids, they never change. always so full of themselves. Then the loudmouth spots him. Surprise flashes in his eyes, but it's gone in an instant. Replaced by a wide, fake-friendly smile. A new friend, he's clearly thinking. He casually walks over. I can't believe you're in my class, he says. That dog. The one from yesterday, it showed up right in my room. Now here's where things get ugly. He hadn't expected to see our protagonist here, not after that whole mess with Go Yun. And those awful things he said about hunters. Our hero is stunned. How do you know that? The kid just smirks back. Your video, he replies. It's all over the place. All over the place, our protagonist's mind is reeling. He was so sure no one knew. Then the verbal slap lands, hitting him even harder. I just can't believe you. He scoffs. Even after pulling all that, you still managed to get into the academy. He calls the main character crazy for messing with Yun, especially as a mere E-rank. But you can see our hero's annoyance is starting to build. The boy holds out a hand. He says it's a pleasure to meet him, introducing himself as Jiwook, a name he expects to be known. The irritation just flickers across our protagonist's face. He remembers Wook's advice, just put up with it, endure the insult for now. A moment later, he extends his own hand and gives his name. Jiwook just erupts in laughter. Your parents must have been fools, he sneers, naming you after some famous hunter. Our main character forces a hollow laugh. Control yourself, he thinks. Don't hit him, then Jiwook asks, so what was it like seeing Go Yun Che up close? He goes on to compliment her figure, saying her face is decent enough for her age. And then he laughs again, says even a director's granddaughter shouldn't act so arrogant. If it wasn't for her bad attitude and that determined look in her eyes, he continues. She'd be his type. Okay, this guy is the worst, right? Well, someone agrees. A voice cuts in, warning Jiwook not to go too far. They're both surprised. It's the girl from earlier. The boy asks why she's getting involved again. She snaps right back at him. She says Jiwook should take a good long look in the mirror before commenting on anyone else. He questions her sanity, reminding her he put up with her before, but this is crossing a line. She retorts that they're both in Class E, which means they're both trash. He absolutely bristles. He insists he's not on her level, claiming he used to be in Class B. She just dismisses it. She says it doesn't matter, since he can't even use his own abilities anyway. The only reason he's even still enrolled is because of his father's powerful influence. Without it, he would have been expelled for sure. Jiwook listens, and you and I can see the rage building. Snapped inside him, he moves toward the girl, his hand raised to strike. She braces for the hit, squeezing her eyes shut, but you're not going to believe what happens next. He's stopped cold. Suddenly, he's just sprawled on the floor. The other students just stare, stunned. How could he? Juke screams, asking if Mim Jong-woo has totally lost his mind. But our guy's face is a total blank slate as he stares the kid down. Jiwook can't believe it, asking if the main character really did that. He just replies that he'd be happy to do it again if the kid wants. Ju Seok slowly gets back to his feet. He asks our main character if he's really looking for trouble on day one. Then his voice gets louder, threatening to beat him down and teach him his place in this school's pecking order. But our protagonist just laughs, then his expression darkens. Have you ever even faced a life-or-death moment? He asks, and I know what you're thinking, the tension here is insane. The bully ignores him and swings. Our MC dodges the sloppy punch with zero effort. Pathetic, he thinks. The kid's form is a complete joke, so weak, even a low-level goblin could take him down. But before another punch is thrown, the door slides open and someone walks in, demanding to know what in the world her students are doing. Jiwook is pissed. Of course, the teacher shows up right when things were getting good. He storms off, muttering that he'll find Jun Wu later to finish this for good. Then he turns back to our protagonist and tells him to meet behind the school. He says something fun is about to go down. A few hours later, you can see the irritation on Wook's face. He asks how the main character managed to find trouble on his very first day. Our guy just says he was actually holding back. Wook tells him he's already handled the fallout. But he can't be sure what Juk will do next. Jun Wu asks what he means, so Wook explains. Okay, let that sink in. The kid RMC just flattened. He's the minister's son. The minister of his own subjugation department, no less. This kid has always gotten whatever he wants, thanks to his dad's power, and has never faced a single real consequence in his life. Our hero gets it now, saying that explains why the kid is the way he is. The director warns him to be more careful. If he messes with Juk again, there's nothing anyone can do to help him. I understand, our guy replies, and adds that he'll handle it my own way. Stepping outside the office, he lets out a sigh. But then the girl from the hallway speaks up, startling him. Why did you do that? She demands. Do you have any idea who you just messed with? He just shrugs. Doesn't matter. I can't stand rude kids. Then he turns it back on her, asking, so why were you about to throw down with him? Juek was only talking about Yun. His surprise is immediate. The girl standing in front of him looks exactly like someone he saw during the subjugation mission. His eyes drift down to the badge on her shirt. Goe Hyun, he asks if she's Yun's younger sister. She confirms that she is. The MC is thrilled, seeing a perfect opportunity to use her, but then she drops a bombshell. She isn't actually Yun's younger sister. She was born to a different mother. So her father never considered her his real daughter, and was never truly part of the family. Our hero is stunned and awkwardly asks if she ever talks to her grandfather. She explains they were close, but he was the one who had her removed from the official family records. The main character's hopes just hit rock bottom. The girl apologizes, saying that since she's no longer considered family, he won't get any compensation, and you and I are left with a huge question mark model. All right, let's dive into some classic academy drama. She's new and thought he was different, someone to rely on. But nope, just another guy obsessed with status. He fires back that she's no different, judging him just for his special admission. The whole conversation about family legacies felt absurd to him, especially for a bunch of teenagers. But the girl tells him to wait, insisting he'll soon understand what being a special student here really means. He could not care less, he just keeps on walking. Seeing that, a blush creeps across her face as the brutal rejection sinks in. Meanwhile, our hero realizes his first plan totally backfired. He needs a new way to get close to Yun. And just then, a figure steps out from the shadows right behind him. Now pay attention, because things are about to get complicated for him. A guy asks if he's Jun Wu, the special student. Surprised, he just asks what he wants. A few other boys are watching and laughing, and more start to show up. In a flash, Jun Wu finds himself completely surrounded by 5 guys in the middle of the school hallway. The leader threatens him, telling him to follow or face humiliation. Realizing how serious this is, our guy feels a headache coming on. He follows them into a school warehouse. He figures this must be their little hideout, and the air is thick with a disgusting stench. A voice calls out, announcing their friend has arrived. It's Juice Guy. And he has a question before the 6 of them begin what he promises will be an unforgettable experience for our main character. He just can't understand why a special student would pick a fight with him. The whole idea seems ridiculous. The big guy even scoffs at the title, special student, and what it even means. Juwach is clearly offended, sneering that someone who slithered in through connections would dare act like his equal. He claims if he wasn't on punishment, he'd teach the MC a lesson all by himself. So our hero should be grateful, he says, that his friends are being merciful. Then with a roar, he unleashes his goons. Let's see how this goes. One of them immediately lunges with a kick, but our protagonist dodges it easily. He's surprised when the attacker just stumbles and falls flat on his face, all on his own. Just laughs. Good dodge, he says. But then the whole crowd surges forward, ready to teach him a real lesson. With effortless grace, he dodges the first guy's punch. Then another and another, all while taunting them for their sloppy combat skills. The first guy comes running back, screaming at him to just shut up. This time our hero stands his ground, meeting the charge with a brutal knee right to the face. He thinks it's pathetic that this guy can't even land one simple punch. Blood gushes from the boy's nose. He collapses, leaving the others completely stunned. How could one person do that? He asks why no one else is attacking. He taunts them to come forward, since Ju promised them unforgettable memories. The leader seethes at the challenge, cursing Jun Wu's name. A grin spreads across Jun Wu's face. You and I know that look. If they're gonna do this, he declares, they might as well do it right. Elsewhere, Goen walks the halls. The memory of his words stings her, how he just called her ideas ridiculous. She can't help but think that for someone who spoke with such certainty. All right, let's jump right into the drama, because our hero has no idea what's coming for him. She overhears some girls saying that Juok's group dragged Jun Wu off somewhere. The rumors are already flying. His school life is officially over. They're calling him the special student who set a new record for being abandoned. Someone asks if the teachers know, but nope, nobody wants to get involved. Goon chimes in that our protagonist absolutely deserves whatever is coming to him. But then something shifts. She remembers his words about her and stops dead. And then she runs. Inside the warehouse, our hero is facing the three boys. The leader, Juwoch, asks his friends if they're just gonna stand there and play around. He tells them a simple charge and one hit on the main character would be enough. But the other two are intimidated. This guy took down their strongest member with a single move, but Juwoch reassures them, saying there's nothing to fear. He insists he didn't do anything special. It's their skills, he says, and their entire mindset that are just painfully childish. Ouch, Julok is furious. He tells his friends to use their abilities on their opponent right now. But one of them warns that using their techniques here risks getting them exposed. Getting caught means instant expulsion from the academy. Juwoch just tells them not to get caught. With that flimsy promise, the boys get ready for another attack. Okay, see those bracelets. This is where they think things get serious. Our protagonist recognizes the item from Gohan and Che's fight, but using swords would be tricky. The two goons hesitate, not wanting to challenge the much larger guy. Seeing them do nothing, Juwoch leaps down, calling his own companions cowards. He brandishes his own bracelet, activating a mechanism to unleash his powers. One of the boys warns him he'll be punished if he's caught. Juwoch just silences him. He activates the item. A system window pops up, D-rank skill acquired. He gets instant access to its abilities. Our hero just watches, totally unimpressed. Through a portal, a spear materializes in Juwoch's hand. He says he'll make our hero beg. He wants to see just how long he can last. The protagonist just scoffs. He calls the bully a mere child and asks if he even knows how to use an ability. One of the lackeys can't believe it, asking if the main character is an idiot. He's already holding a weapon. In response, our protagonist just grabs a nearby broom. He turns to Jusk. You really think summoning an item is an ability? He asks. Then looking back at the other goon, he adds, now there's someone who knows absolutely nothing. The big man jabs his broom toward Jusk, his face enraged. How dare this kid use an ability outside of a designated dungeon? Meanwhile, back at the academy office, you and I are about to find out the real story. News travels fast. One of your new students is already causing trouble, a man reports. Apparently he was bold enough to go up against Juok from Class B, the other replies. Surprised, he adds, that's strange. He's a special admission, but he's in Class E. That would have to mean he has no talent as a hunter. The woman just denies it. Confused, the man listens, as she insists he's completely mistaken about him. She explains he was put in that class simply because he never took the aptitude test. This puzzles him even more. The only students who skip that test are usually the ones whose combat levels are too high for the system to even measure. He asks why he was excluded from evaluation. The only other student with that status was Go Yun. All right, you and I are about to watch a total nobody dismantle a so-called elite. The woman explains the director actually had him placed in the lowest class. She says he was put in Class E specifically to keep him under the radar. The man finds that strange, since hunters usually want all the glory. But she admits she doesn't know the full story. Before another word, a voice calls out her name, "Go on." She asks what's wrong, and the warning comes fast. Our main character is in danger. Back at the fight, his broom and Gusto's spear have just met in a furious clash. Annoyance is written all over the boy's face. He is barely keeping up while our protagonist effortlessly deflects every single one of Gusto's attacks with just a simple broom. A bystander watches, completely confused. Gusto with his spear should have been more than a match for some Baron-level fighter. What is happening here? The protagonist deflects every blow, his broom holding strong. Frustration mounting, the attacker shouts, demanding to know how an E-rank is even holding him off. He lunges again, but our protagonist meets the attack, his expression completely unchanged. Jusek is raining curses down on Jin Wu, his attacks becoming relentless. But Jin Wu parries each blow calmly. Stating that a weapon skill isn't something to be used so carelessly, a bystander just sneers, telling Jin Wu to shut up. He's just a special admission student after all. Our hero explains that a weapon's core defines its abilities. He dodges the attacks with ease, then asks what kind of core Gusto believes his own weapon possesses. Enraged, Gusto tells him to go to hell. The spear's core, he explains, was a gift from his father, the very reason he was even accepted into the academy. His future seemed certain, a hunter after graduation, maybe even a coveted spot on the student council. But now he's facing a special student, ranked only E, and he is struggling. He lunges, but his broom connects not with his opponent, but with the hand of a bystander. A system announcement rings out, "Weapon lost." Retrieve immediately. Confusion sweeps over him. The protagonist is now holding Gusto's spear. And trust me, he's about to teach this kid a lesson he'll never forget. Then, abruptly, the entire building is plunged into complete darkness. Confusion spreads through the students. One remarks it felt as though night had suddenly fallen. Then, just as quickly, the world brightens. Returning to normal, a bystander nudges his friend, telling him to look down. Suddenly, shadows peel away from everyone, rising up from their bodies. The man our hero just struck stands bewildered. Convinced something of his had been stolen, his eyes searching for the vanished darkness, our hero stands wreathed in a dark aura. A look of fear is etched on his opponent's face. Doubt gnaws at the extra. Could this be true? Was this the same core from his own weapon? Meanwhile, a wicked laughter erupts from the large man, his body radiating waves of a corrupted aura. The extra stumbles backward, desperate to escape. But he is trapped, paralyzed with pure fear. He completely loses control of his bowels. With the spear now pointed at his throat, Juech pleads for his life. His opponent's face hardens. He lunges, thrusting the spear toward the boy. The extra cries out, scrambling to escape. But the weapon begins to dissolve. Fading away as the system deactivates, its 1-minute activation time just expiring. Jun Wu decides they've had enough while Juech is still unconscious. Then his imposing friend begins kicking the boy, telling him to wake up, but watch this, the moment the boy sees our main character. He lets out a scream of pure terror. Jun Wu insists he didn't do a thing. Ordering the kid to get on his feet, the extra scrambles up, his eyes locked on our protagonist in complete fear. "You're just a child," the hero Juech says, an odd look crossing his face. "Now answer my question," he demands. Weapons and abilities that are designed for capturing monsters. Wouldn't using them outside of a dungeon be dangerous? But Juk stays dead silent, offering no reply. The leader demands an answer, so the extra quickly agrees, admitting the danger. Our protagonist issues a warning: any more of that behavior would absolutely be punished. He looks at the boy who had just been hit. "Come forward," he commands. Then, turning to the other guy, our protagonist tells him to hit the boy a few more times, which leaves the man completely baffled. Jun Wu says he wants the strongest punch possible. He challenges the extra, asking if he wants everyone laughing at him for being beaten by a mere special student. The boy thanks him but asks for a reason. Our main character says he doesn't want his true identity getting out. The extra questions if that's even possible. Pay attention here. Jun Wu says it has to be the strongest punch. If it doesn't hurt, every single person present is getting a beatdown. Hearing this, the man lunges at our hero. And just as his fist slams into the protagonist's face, the teachers come bursting into the warehouse. The woman points to the red stains spreading across the floor. "There's blood," she says, "his blood." Yubin steps forward, declaring this has gone too far. He just transferred here today, but then another student speaks up. "That's my blood," he claims, covering for them. The teacher immediately tells that student to come to his office. The woman instructs Go-hin to take their big companion to the infirmary, and she nods. A few minutes later, our protagonist is walking, thinking to himself how much weaker his body feels than he expected. He glances at the girl, asking what she's even doing there. He was supposed to be headed to the infirmary. She doesn't answer, just stays quiet. He tells her not to worry about it, that he can handle it, but Ain asks who he really is. Just a normal student, he lies, one who got exactly what he deserved. "Stop pretending," she insists. "And yeah, I know what you're thinking." She saw everything. Minutes earlier, the teacher had sent her to check behind the academy. While she was searching for our hero alone, she heard shouting and went to investigate. She saw exactly what our big guy did to the others, and the fear is still with her. Ain asks why the protagonist is still in Class E instead of the top class. He brushes her off, telling her it's none of her business. He doesn't want any attention, so she should just forget all of it. Ain agrees with him. And that just leaves our protagonist confused. She confesses that she judged him just for being a special student, even admitting that she'd hated him. The girl apologizes, and he just waves it off, saying it's all right. He just wants to go to the infirmary. But Ain immediately changes the topic, saying she didn't want to bring it up. But then asks for his help to join the student council. Hold on, what? Our protagonist, completely stunned, asks Ain to repeat what she just said. Ain explains that entry into the council requires a sponsor. "Are you saying we'd be taking advantage of this person?" the protagonist asks. "Exactly," she replies. Let's dive right back in. Ain is desperately trying to get him as a sponsor. But he shuts her down flat. His excuse, too busy. Ain presses, offering anything in return. He tells her it wouldn't be free, but what he wants is something way beyond her. She runs through a whole list of offers, and he shoots down every single one. Then she plays her final card, an introduction to uni. His interest is piqued. He immediately asks if that's even possible. How could she make an offer like that? Considering uni was expelled, but Ain insists there's more to that story. A playful expression crosses her face as she carefully chooses her next words. Then, with a smile, she explains that if she gets on the student council, they could talk, especially since her sister is already a member, but his reaction is wild. He tells her to forget the whole thing, he'll just handle it all by himself. And right at that moment, dizziness hits him hard and he collapses to the floor. The girl kneels beside him in a panic, asking what's wrong as he gasps for air. "I've been asking to go to the infirmary," he chokes out, "for a long time. Now you and I need to see this." Back at Hunter Academy, an emergency meeting is in full swing. The teacher reports this is the second time Jusk has used his ability like this. Another person declares its grounds for immediate expulsion. Owen agrees, adding that this time there's no mercy. The first teacher confirms it, saying he saw the whole thing with his own eyes. He turns to the academy director, Wook, to hear his take on the situation. Wook's gaze shifts to the teacher who brought Ain. "So is it true?" he asks her. "That Juech and his friends assaulted our main character." She confirms she witnessed the entire attack. He presses her again, just to be sure she really saw it. Her answer doesn't waver. Then the director just bursts out laughing, thanking our protagonist for taking the beating. The teacher is completely baffled, and let's be real, you and I are probably just as confused. But then his tone shifts completely. He states that the use of abilities is forbidden. And since this isn't the first time, there are going to be some serious consequences. The director announces that according to the rules, Juech will be expelled, but a voice cuts in. Wooik allows him to speak. This man, with zero shame, argues that expulsion is way too harsh. Wooik demands an explanation, the man's shameless excuse. It's just how teenagers behave sometimes. Their teacher's voice rises sharply. This wasn't just some mistake, she argues. It could have caused a serious, life-threatening accident. The academy official says that Jusak is a promising student, destined to be a pillar of the school. He then turns on Yubin, asking if she could really live with herself, knowing that she'd be the one to destroy his massive potential over a minor issue. His words hit her hard. The man concedes that Juicy was in the wrong and that his mistake was a big one. Even so, he still believes expulsion is going too far. He argues a 1-week suspension is more than enough for the boy to learn his lesson. And Wook agrees, saying they'll decide the punishment later. The meeting is over. As the teachers all file out of the room, we cut to the headquarters of the second largest guild. That shameless man smirks, glancing down at his phone. He immediately makes a call. The person on the other end is the minister, Juok's own father. Junbin assures him the punishment will just be a slap on the wrist, a simple suspension. He even says that as things stand, the boy has an excellent chance of joining the student council. His voice drips with malice as he promises to teach our main character a lesson he'll never forget. And trust me, with the end-of-month evaluation looming, things are about to get ugly. All right, you and I are about to see our MC's school life get real complicated. He scans his classmates, a sea of what he considers talentless trash. Unlikely to ever become real hunters, even the lessons themselves are a total joke. Just a string of wasted hours, so he keeps a low profile, blending in. He's basically a ghost, until a sharp blow cracks against his head. And here we go again, the scene from the start, the relentless bullying. It's like a broken record, their words echoing the last time they met. Same stupid accusations, same fear hiding in their eyes. These were the same guys. The ones he faced in the warehouse, their tough guy act feels pathetic now. To the world, he's just some errand boy, but little do they know the truth. The punk who threw the punch just sneers, trying to act all tough. He calls our protagonist hopeless and tells him to follow for a lesson, and trust me, we know exactly what that means. The other students start to file out of the classroom. In the hallway, our hero trails just behind them, but the moment he speaks, the two boys flinch. Okay, the slap stung, our hero admits, then the three guys apologize. One of them tries to say they were just taking their frustrations out. But his partner denies it, insisting he only did it because young Wu wanted it to look real. So did it work, our hero wonders. The man just sighs in response. Getting close to the student council is proving difficult for any first year. After hearing this, our protagonist asks if they uncovered anything else useful. The man confirms they did learn a few things. Apparently, some people mentioned Yoonji almost never attends school. Is that all? Our hero asks, unimpressed. Now pay attention, this is the first real lead. They add she keeps to herself with only one friend. A fellow student council member named Jong Yun. This is it, the only lead that matters. He needs to find this Jong Yun, so he asks where he is. The others just mumble. Turns out Jong Yun rarely shows up to school either, and our hero's patience snaps. Get out, he snaps. The boys apologize, vowing to return with something good. Something useful next time. A throbbing headache begins to build behind his eyes. He feels a presence and turns to find Ian standing right there, watching him. This isn't going to work, she tells him flatly. He asks if she's been following him. She replies that since Jong Yun is a student council member, he's naturally going to be difficult to get a hold of. Our MC questions why it's so hard. To track these people down, the student council isn't that important, is it? She stresses just how wrong he is. only the absolute best are ever chosen. Our protagonist isn't impressed. They're all just kids, every single one of them. But Ian explains council membership guarantees you become a hunter. It opens the door for real missions, plus their parents hold a ton of influence. So much power that teachers treat them differently. Even within the school's walls, they have absolute authority. They're playing on a completely different level. She explains that with his current approach, he's never even going to catch a glimpse of Go Yun. So John Mew asks if there's any other way. The girl starts to suggest the student council, but he cuts her off immediately. Now she's just confused. Why do you keep refusing? She asks him. He told her that Ian said only talented people stand out, and she just doesn't have it. Just teach me, she insists. I'll work hard. He starts to laugh, and what do you and I think? That laugh means things are about to get wild. He warned her that learning from him would only bring a world of pain. A heavy silence hung in the air. He admits he just doesn't get her obsession with joining the council, telling her not to chase things so far out of her leg. But the girl, she just waves it all off. Jun Wu is completely stunned. She says if the council won't accept her, then she'll just find another world to go to. And she begs him to teach her the way. She declares she will master every single thing about subjugation, promising to train until she drops. Jun Wu announces break time is over and starts to walk off, but the girl presses him for an answer. A small smile creeps across his face, impressed by her sheer guts. He hasn't seen a fire like that in a long, long time. Maybe she could be useful. Elsewhere, their favorite teacher is congratulating the students, then gives them a reminder about the monthly evaluation. Because of that, they need to seriously step up their game. Last month's scores were a total disaster. Her lecture is cut short when someone arrives, apologizing for interrupting, and look who it is. The shameless teacher, here to announce a few changes to the monthly exam. He declares that the first-year test will now be a practical exercise held inside a dungeon. The students just stare, totally lost and confused. Our heroine wonders if this is even real, while our main character's expression turns dark. The teacher, after a beat, says that's completely impossible. But the shameless man warns her not to raise her voice in front of the students. Yuban argues that a practical exam is just way too much, but he just fires back, asking if she's suggesting that class E can't handle it. She's left totally speechless. He ignores her silence, saying the decision is final. Then he adds that excluding students from their education is a form of discrimination. He asks how long they plan on being separate from the academy's main curriculum, reminding them every student has to fulfill the basic requirements for their hunter certification. Our MC thinks this is insane. This class is full of clueless kids, and yeah, you and I both know something is seriously off. No teacher in their right mind would send children into a real dungeon. He offers a simple ultimatum. Either take the exam or surrender and join the remedial classes. Fixing his eyes right on our protagonist, he adds one final, chilling condition. Withdrawal means expulsion, as he turns to leave. He promises to oversee the evaluation personally, leaving our protagonist with a sinking feeling that something is very, very wrong. That teacher couldn't have pulled this off on his own. Someone powerful is pulling the strings. In the director's office, Wook's suspicions are confirmed. The Minister of Civilization of Korea himself is involved. Our main character reveals he was blacklisted all because of Juke. The director apologizes, explaining he did everything he could to stop it, but Myeonjin's influence and deep history with the academy made it impossible to overrule him. He understands it was a tough spot to be in, the protagonist replies. The director tries to explain more, but the protagonist cuts him right off. He's heard enough excuses. Wook asks his friend what his plan is to get out of this mess. Our MC agrees. Of course, he's going to take that exam. He still hasn't seen Yun, and expulsion is not an option. He turns to the director. So, does his friend have any good weapons? The man claims he's got nothing at all, the MC tells him he can't go into a dungeon empty-handed, pressing him for anything at all that could be used to fight, but Wooik insisted. He had nothing. Items, he explained, were too dangerous. And our hero was completely taken aback. He grabs his friend's arm. "Have you finally grown the guts to lie to me, Wooik?" he demands, but the director just denies it. Then he spots it, the ring on his friend's finger. "What's that?" he asks. The second highest ranking member of the G08 realizes his secret is out. It was the legendary Ring of Paitley's, an exceptionally rare item. They start to discuss it. 50 years have passed. Our main character asks if Wooik even has it anymore. He replies he only started using it after the fall of his leader. Then a memory flashes back, a time when he was a nobody. And the protagonist had not only saved his life, but brought him onto the team. He asks his friend what he's doing. Snatching the ring, he declares he will be the one to use it. Now watch this. A smile touches his lips as he holds it, a power he hasn't wielded in years. Not since before his elimination. Wooik hesitates. Is this really all right to use? Wouldn't that prove he wasn't really an E-rank? But our MC dismisses it. "It's just a kid's dungeon after all," he says. "It won't matter." Just as our hero gets to the door, the director stops him. "There's something else." He asks what it is. Wooik starts to answer, but Jun Wu cuts him off, closing the door and walking away. Alone, the man actually considers resigning as president of the academy. Meanwhile, the shameless teacher walks down the hallway. "And yeah, I know what you're thinking. A whole new drama is about to start." He opens the door, shocked to find the main heroine inside. He asks Gaon Unanch why she came to school today. But she immediately fires back, demanding to know why he just barged into her room. Irritated, the man retorts that the teachers can come and go as they please, and she shouldn't let her position as a council member go to her head. After that, total silence. He instantly realizes his mistake and shifts uncomfortably. He reminds himself to be patient. This is the academy, after all. There's an upcoming first-year evaluation. He explains, and the student council has assigned a supervisor. This time it is going to be a practical exam. "Are you serious?" the girl asks. "A practical exam for first years." He confirms it, then asks if she is interested. She flat out refuses. He asks if she could check with the other student council members, but she tells him they can't do it either. He cannot believe it. "Are you suggesting we postpone the practical exam?" She confirms, stating that if it can't be held without the student council's help, it would be better to wait a whole year. There was no benefit for them, she adds. "Perhaps," she muses, "if they paid me, I might reconsider." That's it, he erupts, demanding to know if she thinks being a council member makes her some kind of royalty. He reminds her that he supported her rise within the school. "Did you do it all alone?" he challenges. The girl bristles. "Don't take your frustration out on me," she says. "It was my grandfather who judged you, not I," she adds pointedly. "You should treat the council members better, too." He is completely speechless. He finally manages to ask where she'd heard about his judgment, but before she could even answer, someone enters the room. "Teacher," he exclaims, "and trust me, you'll want to see who it is." "You again, is there something important we need to discuss?" the man asks. A council member is needed to evaluate the exams, and here's where we meet a guy who's about to cause some major trouble. He asks if Chai agreed to do it, and the man admits she hasn't. So the student offers to handle it himself, since he's not busy at all. The man asks if he can even handle it. The boy just scoffs. Of course he can. He's a student council member himself. The man, Youngman, clearly thinks this kid is nothing but trouble, and he hesitates. But with no other options, he gives in, telling the boy to sign the document and get it to his teacher. Uni watches this all go down, her gut twisting. That suspicious smile on the boy's face tells her everything she needs to know. She confronts him, asking what he'll do about the subjugation schedule. He says he'll just drop it. Unlike her, he's not famous, so no one will even notice. Jay presses him, totally confused. Why risk so much to help Professor Cha? She knows he dislikes the man. Now pay attention, because his real reason is a total game changer. He took the job to watch the professor, determined to stop another accident. He absolutely needs to see those test results, especially since he heard the kid from the hospital is now a first-year student. Che is just stunned by how much he knows. He seems incredibly well-informed for a new student. But he explains his curiosity led him to start watching our protagonist from the very beginning. He saw him take down Juach's group on the first day and, like Che, skipped the evaluation. He then asks her if she's also curious about our main character. Meanwhile, on the academy training grounds, our hero is scanning the crowd. He sees a bunch of students from classes C and D are missing. The B-rank students, though, they're all here showing off for the girls. In the main character's class, only 2 people are even participating, himself. And one other person. Someone asks if they're the only 2 heading into the dungeon. It's Ayan already getting ready. Good, she says, just us means no waiting. The main character questions why she's even here, and yeah, you're probably wondering the same thing. Isn't it obvious, she replies, I'm taking the test. She tells him not to worry. She promises she won't be a burden, but he warns her that even a low-level dungeon is no joke. He tells her to back down while he's still being patient. This test, he explains, is specifically designed to weed out E-class applicants right away. But Ayan is not backing down. She reminds him she's dead serious about joining the student council. And anyone with that goal in mind cannot afford to fail this exam. The main character is about to argue, but a voice cuts through the air, demanding their attention. It's the teacher, the same one who downplayed the test's dangers before. Now he's warning them not to lower their guard. This school exam, he says, will take place in a low-grade dungeon, with each group limited to only 8 participants. The class agrees that Class A will take the exam first, while the others wait their turn. As a student enters the room, the teacher announces that everyone should recognize this council member. And what do you know, it's the shady kid from before. He introduces himself. Kim Jong-un, a flash of recognition hits our hero's face. The name is familiar, like a whisper from his past. As he's staring him down, the teacher announces a class reassignment. Trust me, with only 2 of them there, this is the worst possible news. All right, with the last students out of Class E, Jun Wu and An are getting moved to Class D. Just then, the man from earlier approaches and greets our protagonist. The boys he beat up, bruised and battered, shift nervously. They try to act tough, but the heroine sees right through their little act. Their fake confidence was obvious, she thought, a really poorly disguised act. Whispers start ripping through the other students. They're grumbling about their own bad luck, getting teamed up with a special admission student. One guy complains about it, while a girl points out they're also 2 members short. One of the boys the main character had beaten starts to offer an apology. But before he can even finish, our protagonist just brushes it off. He asks about the dungeon instead, and someone confirms they got some intel. A boy bows, holding out a tablet for our protagonist to see. Take a look at the details, he says, which just confuses everyone watching. Someone is actually bowing to the school's biggest loser, unheard of. Then another kid scoffs. Useless, he sneers, can't even gather information yourself. You have to rely on others. Several hours later, at the mouth of a cave, Junmin speaks. He asks the final team if they're prepared to enter. Hen confirms that they are. He's confident his freshmen are ready to find what they need to complete the mission. The teacher explains the test will be over once they defeat the dungeon boss inside. He flashes this strange smile, asking if they have any more questions about the exam. Our protagonist watches in silence, studying the man's overly bold demeanor. And yeah, you and I both know a smile like that means this is no ordinary test. Jong Yun announces the final team can begin, and our hero's team steps into the dungeon. Our hero walks through the cave, finding it all remarkably ordinary. The monsters are just your typical cave-dwelling types, nothing special. But then a sudden loud noise shatters the quiet. A massive swarm of rat-like creatures charges straight for the students. Screams erupt. "There's too many," someone cries out. "Prepare for battle." The system announces authorization for the students to use their abilities. A new expression crosses young Wu's face as he mutters, curious to see their skills. One of the boys conjures a powerful gust of wind. The second student unleashes a sniper ability. The last boy triggers a berserk state. Together, they manage to hold back the swarm. But barely, a student fires off air bullets at the creatures. The barrage hardly slows down the monster's relentless attacks. Our main character isn't surprised. Their powers are weak, barely understood. The other students are no different. They're just swinging their swords around with no real purpose or direction. And out of the chaos, a single figure emerges. It's the heroine, wielding a fire-based skill. In a flash, flames completely consume the monsters in front of her. Their screams are cut short as the fire engulfs them. Ian clearly knows how to wield her power. Even without any formal class instruction, she's already mastered her skills. He acknowledges she's good for a kid, but dismisses it as simple beginner's luck. The other students, exhausted, start to question if this dungeon is really low-level. All while the monsters continue their non-stop assault. Just then, a rat darts toward a boy. But in a flash, the big man activates his patella's ring. The system announces an impending skill activation. Don't blink, because he's about to make his move. Stone between his fingers, and just like that, you and I just saw that monster from moments ago get completely obliterated. It's sent flying backwards, smashing right into the wall. The kid just stares, totally confused by the sheer power on display. The hero scolds him, warning him not to pull such a reckless move again. Hearing that, the punk actually tells the hero to shut up. The girl chimes in that he was just trying to rack up points fast. The hero can't believe it. Are they idiots? They have no idea how serious this is. One of the guys asks if Jun Wu really pulled that off. The redhead admits the dungeon is tougher than he thought. But our main character's friends just sigh, feeling totally useless. They hadn't even realized how close they came to being wiped out. They're already exhausted, totally unable to keep going, and they haven't even been inside the dungeon for 5 minutes. Gon is the only one who can help. But he can't possibly rely on her. He wants to ditch these guys, but he feels their eyes on him. Now watch closely, because something about this dungeon is dead wrong. He turns to his companion, a bad feeling twisting in his gut. "Doesn't this feel strange to you?" he asks. "Way too many monsters, and we're barely at the entrance. Something's off. We need to stop and figure this out." But Jun Min just scoffs, asking if our guy is good for anything besides holding things up. He turns away, muttering that the main character is way too arrogant for his own good. As the supervisor, Jun Mayan will call the shots. If this keeps up, the protagonist yells, someone is going to get hurt. He tries to say more, but the supervisor cuts Jun Wu off, sharply telling the students to focus. He even offers a way out for any student who's too wiped to continue, but the room stays stubbornly silent. Nobody takes the offer. Jun warns that if the protagonist is tired, he should just quit by himself and stop dragging everyone else down. Any more trouble, he threatens, and it's an instant disqualification. But then, a hand lands on our protagonist's shoulder. "Don't worry," Jong Hun reassures him. "If things get dangerous, I'll handle it." He completely dismisses the protagonist's concerns, casually mentioning his student council status as if that solves everything. Before walking off, Jun Wu just watches him go, his mind racing. A few minutes later, the group is practically buzzing with excitement. They've reached the boss room, but their celebration dies instantly, replaced by a sudden, chilling silence. Seeing their apprehension, he sighs, "I know, right." They're already terrified, and they haven't even laid eyes on the boss. He heads for the door, saying he'll open it. But Ian insists they should do it together. He starts to object, confident he can handle it himself, but she's not backing down. She is opening that door with him. She even claims he's secretly enjoying everyone's fear, a feeling she clearly doesn't share. He glances away, trying to act cool. Then, together, they push open the massive gates to the boss's chamber. One look inside, and our protagonist is frozen solid. A giant monster is just lying there, red liquid seeping from its head. The thing had already been taken down, a huge pool of red spreading across the floor. One of the guys asks if this is seriously the boss. The woman is just as shocked. Wasn't it already cleared? Jun Min asks what in the world is going on. An explains it was an unexplored dungeon. The heroine looks to our main character. She asks if he knows something. He says there was interference inside. And here's where a simple dungeon run turns into an absolute nightmare. Fear creeps onto the students' faces as they ask why they have to run. Our hero just screams at them to get out. Something went wrong. Terribly wrong, and then a colossal shadow swallows everything. It looms over Junu and the heroine. The main character sees it and feels a primal fear. This thing makes their own hero look like an insect, a terrifying giant. The sheer size of it sends the students scrambling for their lives. This is what's called a dungeon interference, when a boss gets taken out by an even stronger invader. And it's something that should never, ever happen in a low-grade dungeon. Pure terror washes over the heroine's face as the hero trembles uncontrollably. The creature stands right in front of our protagonist. The system identifies it. A three-tailed tiger. Now pay attention, because this reveal is a total disaster. A green-ranked boss inside a purple-ranked dungeon. This is a death sentence. Screams fill the air as students scatter, desperately searching for the exit. But the monster completely ignores our protagonist and leaps toward the others. It lands with devastating force, shattering the ground around it. Fear grips the teacher. He shields his classmates, yelling for them to get behind him as the system's voice rings out. User authorization granted. Rank 6 skills activated. Hyun's powers are unleashed. A brilliant light suddenly blooms from the darkness of the dungeon. It's coming from Jong Yun's arm. This is his unique ability, Porcupine's Wrath. He calls out to the main character, saying he can't handle a green rank alone. He needs the protagonist's help. Hearing this, our hero is totally lost. Why would this guy possibly need his help? Hun apologizes, then drops a bombshell. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How did he know? Well, get ready for the reveal. He was stunned. How could anyone know about this? One student immediately speaks up. He wonders if the protagonist is just like Cha. Our hero is completely baffled. Just a few days ago, a system window had declared his abilities immeasurable. Wooik, seeming to know this would happen, had simply passed him through. Our hero remembers the conversation, saying he didn't want to stand out. The man explained this was something even he couldn't fully control. But he said if the protagonist wanted to stay under the radar, the teachers would help. He clarified that almost no one would even notice. He meant it wouldn't be a big deal. He mutters to himself, already regretting his choice. Back in the dungeon, he charges. He's determined to go all out. Yan thanks him, feeling a bit more confident. The monster lunges right for them. Hyun, shocked for a moment, braces himself. Then in a split second, he sees an opening. He fires off a volley of mana. Dozens of spikes shoot toward the tiger. The monster rears back, trying to block them. But Hyun doesn't let up, giving the creature zero time to recover. He drives 2 spikes straight into the monster's flesh. It hits hard. The creature thrashes around in an absolute rage. Nearby, a student whispers in awe. He's amazed by the council member's power. A young girl says that even so. They're still just kids, and you and I both know they're about to see what a real monster can do. Just standing around doing nothing, while Hun did all the work. One even wondered if Hun was giving our main character special treatment. The girl says that's impossible. But the guy snaps back, saying he's been annoyed with the MC from the second he saw him. Not about to let his prey get away. The third of this story's 8 guardians presses his attack, searching for an opening. A weakness in the monster's defenses, and a strange thought crosses his mind. He's never had a fight this exhilarating before. Taking down a green-ranked boss this easily feels like a gift, a victory just handed to him on a silver platter. But as he passes the protagonist, a flicker of confusion sparks. Could the hero be setting this all up, letting him take the credit? Hyun's thoughts are cut short as the tiger lunges again. With a casual flick of his wrist, Hyun sends a rock flying toward the beast, hitting its body. The tiger starts to get dizzy as the big guy moves in to finish it off. And that's when the kid finally gets it. Every time the creature attacks, the hero repels it with a powerful push. He'd actually read about this move in a manual. Our main character is hitting its weak points, a nearly impossible move unless you can predict the monster's attacks. Even crazier, he does it all without anyone noticing, leaving the kid wondering who he really is, but that doesn't matter now. He has to kill this tiger to clear an exit path for the other students. He launches another attack, striking the monster's head. The blow connects and the creature is obliterated by the second big guy. The boy just stares at the tiger's lifeless body, completely lost in thought. The other students, shaken by the brutal kill, are suddenly filled with a whole new kind of fear. Someone from the student council, they realize with a shiver, has unbelievable power. Whispers spread like wildfire. Their senior was the best, totally unbeatable. This, they all murmured, was exactly what you'd expect from a member of the council. He laughs, amused at how he'd been scared that the incident from 2 years ago would happen again. Now it looks like everything's going to work out. Jun Woo's exemption from the evaluation could be the perfect reason to get him expelled. But just then our protagonist speaks. He warns them the monster is still alive. It's too dangerous to stay here. They have to leave. A sharp shout cuts through the air, demanding the protagonist's attention. And look who it is, the same guy from before. He accuses the hero of faking concern just to look good. Then with a sudden burst of speed, he leaps right in front of the creature. He swears he won't let Jun Wu steal the opportunity and that he'll deliver the final blow himself. But in the next second, the tiger's eyes snap wide open. It lunges at the newcomer, who, it seems, made a massive miscalculation. Jun Wu just thinks the guy is a complete idiot for pulling such a reckless stunt. To our horror, the second greatest Geo8 steps in front of the extra, and then his arm is completely severed. A shocking, brutal attack. The boy spits out a mouthful of blood. The one responsible stands there, stunned by what they've done. Pure horror grips the professor and the students. The boy lies motionless on the ground as panicked voices ask if he's still alive. Then Yuman screams for them to run, and they question if the boy will be okay. The man just yells at them to run. Terror seizes the heroine. What could she possibly do? A student council member taken down in a single blow. Let's dive right in. No time to think. The monster was already on her. She knew the tiger feared fire, a power she had, but as she prepared to attack, pure terror froze her solid. She couldn't move. Fear had her locked down, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. She was helpless. The creature charged. And then the system announced the activation of explosive flow. A fist shot out, connecting hard with the monster. It was our hero, sending the beast flying with one single, powerful strike. The girl just watched, completely stunned, barely believing what she had just seen. The tiger sailed through the air from the sheer force of the impact. Our hero didn't stick around, though, leaving the scene in a flash. Back where he'd been knocked down, the extra was weeping. His anger finally faded, replaced by a bitter acceptance. But the quiet moment gets shattered when someone yanks the man up by his collar. It's the hero stepping back in. He warns him to cut the act and take the fight somewhere else if he wants to stay alive in this world. The protagonist calls out to the biggest guy among them. Asking for his help, everyone else needed to stay hidden. As he gets ready for a fight, a nagging thought hits him. I think you and I can see it on his face. Did he make a mistake by hiding? He could have ended this already. Now the creature is roaring right in his face. It lunges, but he dodges it easily. The tiger then starts pulling sharp objects from its own body. It thrusts a spear-like weapon at our main character, but he dodges the attack just as the system announces weapon capacity has been activated. Flow is now active. The protagonist slams another punch straight into the creature. This time, the monster looks truly done for. There's just no way it's getting up from that. This time, our hero's conviction is absolute. He activates his ability again, unleashing a devastating barrage of attacks. Surprise ripples through the crowd as the protagonist completely dominates the tiger. Even his beloved is watching her future husband, her eyes locked on the battle unfolding before her. The shameless guy is also totally shocked. He watches the protagonist relentlessly pummel the tiger, completely bewildered by this sudden explosion of strength. This wasn't the man he thought he knew. His anger flares up again. Could the protagonist really have leveled up without even taking the exam? Okay, I know what you're thinking, and yeah, it gets even crazier. His skills surpassed even the veterans, which was wild considering he used an ancient weapon. He shouted out a warning. This ancient supernatural weapon was dangerous. But he pressed on, unconcerned. The professor's warning was obvious. He already knew all about the penalties. Every single ancient weapon carried a huge risk. Their activation effects could vary, sometimes even destroying the person wielding them. But their incredible power was just too tempting to pass up. The bracelet was simple, offering maximum power with zero drawbacks. Its one limitation, however, was that the user was stuck with the abilities of the monster sealed inside, a supernatural weapon. On the other hand, amplifies the monster's power, reshaping it into a much deadlier form for the hunter to use. Our main character notes that the new generation of hunters has gotten way weaker. Even if things seem fine now, he thought, the monsters will only get stronger. Suddenly, a tiger materializes right behind him. Your future husband should watch his back, the heroine warned. The tiger lunged, but Go dodged the attack like it was nothing. The system announced the activation of the flow attack, and trust me, you can see the fear flash right across the creature's face. All right, let's dive right in. Our hero spins midair, launching a punch straight at the beast. The tiger takes the explosive blow right to the face. The monster winces. Its eye slams shut from the pure force of the impact. The shockwave ripples out. It blasts past the bystanders and even hits the heroine. Smoke fills the air. She had assumed the Patali's ring's penalty would just feed on its wearer's fear, but even after that brutal attack, he forces his eye back open. The system confirms it. The penalty is activating. The protagonist has hunted this green-class monster before. It's a Patali's, a creature that gets stronger when its prey feels fear. The ring was forged from its core, and because of that, it carries a lethal penalty. The first person to feel fear gets eliminated. Literally flung into the sky by their own terror, he walks over to the students. He asks about Hun. The big guy confirms he stopped the bleeding for now. His friend is still breathing, but the blood loss is bad. They have to move. He asks for a radio. There has to be a control center they can contact. The professor digs through his pocket and finally pulls out the radio. Without a second thought, he snatches it from him. He clicks it on. He reports that they've cleared the dungeon, but there are casualties. Static. As the signal clears, he adds that the dungeon itself shifted from purple to green. One of the injured has a serious wound. Then, out of nowhere, the protagonist rattles off a precise medical code. He says they're leaving now, and that they need immediate rescue. Back at headquarters, things get weird. While looking up Hun's info, a man named John is confused, and you and I are about to see why. How could an E-rank student possibly know the injury codes and reporting system? John, completely suspicious of Jan Wu, demands to know who he really is. Jan Wu says nothing. John's temper flares. "Did you not hear me?" he screams. Before he gets another word out, a fist slams right into his mouth. "Yep," from Jan Wu. Tears well up in John's eyes as our hero argues that a supervisor should be able to properly assess a situation, but his anger doesn't fade. He starts to talk back, but the big boss cuts him off, threatening to send him to Brazil. Just like that, the professor shuts his mouth. A few minutes later, the students start to file out of the dungeon. Sadness crosses our hero's face. He looks at his injured companion. Wook asks if he's okay. "I couldn't hold back," Wook says, and our hero replies, "Thanks to you." No one was eliminated. The second-ranked member of the GO8 starts boasting. He claims his name will soon be known by everyone, even Sayekdu. Suddenly, our protagonist's hesitation is gone. He reveals a teacher from their school tried to kill him, and a 19-year-old kid lost his arm. Finally acting like he should, the protagonist turns to his friend. "Did any of that make sense to you?" he asks. Wook trembles at his expression. He wouldn't let this happen again, our hero warns him. Payback is coming. Walking away, he adds that his friend won't want to see him like this again. Hours later, that same teacher stands in Wook's office, shamelessly claiming there were issues with the written exam. He blames it all on Cha, saying she was the one who forced the switch to a practical test. The test, he insists, was just meant to fix the imbalance between Class E and the others. All right, let's watch this teacher try to worm his way out of this one. But his excuses are wearing thin, and the director's voice is rising to a shout. Did Yuman seriously not know this test was a setup to expel his own classmate? The shameless teacher is stunned, clearly not expecting Wook to be onto his scheme. For a second, he wonders if someone even more powerful than Minister Mamjin is involved. But he quickly shakes that thought off. He doesn't know anyone with that kind of pull. Scrambling to look innocent, he insists the test was completely by the book. And he claims that taking part in the subjugation was totally voluntary. Just as he's about to spin more lies, the man known as the Goat cuts him off. The real problem, he says, was switching to a practical exam out of nowhere. A passing grade needed 60 stars, a score Yuman knew the special students could never hit. The whole thing was rigged from the start, that much was obvious. The man then points out the biggest contradiction. Our hero, who was exempt, got the highest score. Then he drops the truth bomb about what really happened in the dungeon. It was a rare phenomenon called dungeon interference. Now here's the part you and I need to watch closely. Wook had approved the test. The realization hits him hard. He actually signed off on it. Wook sighs, ending the argument. He just tells the teacher to go prepare a report. They'll review the footage before they decide what to do next. A smug smile creeps onto the teacher's face as he turns to leave the director's office. But he freezes. Wook's voice stops him dead in his tracks. There's one more thing. He needs to make something perfectly clear. He is not afraid of Minister Mamjin. The only person he has ever feared in his life is a man named Jun Wu. What does that mean? The teacher asks. A flashback to 40 years ago begins. Wook warns him if this ever happens again, there's nothing he can do to protect him. Pure terror grips the teacher as he stands outside the academy president's office. He immediately calls the minister, promising him he'll get the situation under control. Mamjin calmly replies that Jung Hyan's injuries aren't life-threatening. So our main character won't be held responsible for what happened. As for Hunan, he was never a real candidate anyway. Considering his role in getting Professor Choi expelled, he's lucky his injuries weren't worse. The teacher apologizes, admitting he seriously underestimated the hero's power. The minister then questions if the protagonist even deserved to be admitted in the first place. But before the teacher can answer, Mamjin cuts him off, getting straight to business. A member of the Parents' Association thinks the council candidates have already been picked. He asks for Yuman's opinion, and the terrified teacher quickly agrees. Excellent, the minister replies, clearly pleased with the answer. He then suggests Cha shouldn't be discouraged by this and offers to have lunch sometime. With that, the minister hangs up, and the teacher lets out a heavy sigh. He can't stop thinking about it. How can a mere student wield so much power? This kid is on another level, stronger than even some of the most seasoned hunters. But an opportunity like this is too good to pass up. He's made up his mind. He will find a way to take down Jun Wu, no matter what it takes. Elsewhere, someone warns our hero that what's coming is going to hurt, a lot. But an instant later, a doctor touches him with a cotton swab and he lets out a blood-curdling scream. The nurse explained his treatment was done, but he had to stay upright until it dried. He was also given a few other warnings. But his fiancée immediately jumps in, calling him a child, and you and I know that's hardly how a hero who beat a green-ranked boss should act. He just tells her to be quiet. That lingering pain, he figures, is the price he has to pay for ignoring his supernatural weapon for so long. But things are different now. Still, she keeps pushing. He's getting annoyed. She promises to disappear if he'll just help her out. He can't believe she's still trying to join the council. How many times, he asks, does he have to say no? Whether she joins the council or not, he declares, means absolutely nothing to him. A voice suddenly cuts through the air, warning that getting into the student council is anything but easy. Ian is surprised, mentioning a rumor that this guy had transferred into their classmate's room. Turns out he's a major player in how this whole story unfolds. The main character asks him how he's doing. The kid insists he's just fine, though you can tell his wounds are clearly bothering him. Our hero asks if Hyun heard the news, that the arrogant challenger had finally backed down. Hyun confirms it, saying the news got to him right after the practical exam. He says that when someone saves your life, the very least you can do is show up and thank them. But the guy still ran. Hyun just dismisses it, saying it doesn't matter. They survived, that's what's important, but our protagonist pushes back. Isn't that a little optimistic, considering Hyun's missing arm? Hearing that, the boy is left completely speechless. The goat explains that his father always told him, as long as he wasn't eliminated, he could overcome any challenge. Since he wasn't sent to Brazil, everything was going to work out. The MC, who was suspicious of this boy before, now remembers how he'd sacrificed his own arm for some reckless fool. That kind of selflessness was incredibly rare, even 40 years ago. That familiar phrase just echoes from the past. Ian asks why he thinks it would be so hard for her to join the student council. He explains he'd heard Ian wanted to join, but that it's probably going to be a tough road. Is it because she's in Class E? The boy, known as the goat, just laughs. Not at all. Now listen closely. He asks if they've ever heard of the Parents' Association. Just hearing the name makes both of them tense up. The girl remarks that Han makes them sound like trouble, and he confirms her suspicion. 5 first-year members in the Parents' Association, 5 of their kids in the student body, and 5 council spots per grade. He asks if they're starting to see the picture. Ian is shocked. He continues, explaining it's a group of influential parents who have already put their own children on the council. Yep, I know what you're thinking, a classic case of corruption. The boy says no, he only managed to get a spot after a reserve position opened up. Our protagonist asks if you need their approval to get in. And if so, if you're not approved, does that mean someone else gets kicked out? Hyun stays silent. So the MC presses on, asking what happens to the students eliminated during the process. The heroine is stunned. Wait, people actually get eliminated. The goat just looks at her, questioning why she's so surprised. He then turns to the young woman, remarking how strange it is for a senior to be so naive, and tells her to give up on the council. But she refuses. Does he really expect her to just give up without even a fight? Especially when this Parents' Association could be causing some real harm to people. Turning to our protagonist, she asks if he agrees with her, and trust me, we are all dying to hear his answer. The situation was a mess, and honestly, you and I know someone had to step in. The school's corruption was endangering students. He wanted to act, but Gigantiana's return was the bigger threat. He reminded everyone that finding Cha was the top priority. Just then, the boy pointed out she'd arrived at the perfect time. And there she was, their second heroine, maybe even the main one, appearing right behind our protagonist. Hyun started walking toward him. Surprise hit him like a truck, things were just falling into place, almost too perfectly. A huge grin spread across young Wu's face as he got up to greet his girlfriend. "It's been a while," he said, but the words just hung there. The brunette completely ignored him, striding right past him and straight towards the other heroine. Hyun revealed her sister had begged her to leave the academy. Now she pressed, asking what Hyuni was gonna do now that she was enrolled and studying here. Hyuni just stared back, no answer, the tension between the sisters. You could cut it with a knife. The two onlookers shifted, feeling the heat. He wasn't sure what their history was, but that tension was undeniable. He wondered if Ian's drive to join the council was all about one-upping her sister Hyuni. With nothing left to say, Ian turned to leave. The MC tried to speak, but she cut him off, claiming he was in an even worse spot than she was. For the first time since this whole mess started, Hyuni finally spoke. Was his sister hurt? Aeon looked shocked, a little late to pretend you care about your sister. She said and walked away. Yun, trying to break the ice, thanked her friend for coming and asked if she and Hyuni had met before. As the two just stared at each other. He figured their first impression probably hadn't been the best. Okay, feeling like a total third wheel here, he knew he couldn't stay. He made his excuses, saying he had some things to take care of. Our MC told Hyuni he needed a word with her, and the two of them quickly left the room. Hyun watched them go, and somehow, the situation felt even more awkward than before. Out in the hospital hallway, Hyuni asked him what was up. He wasn't ready for this talk. Not since the moment they first met, should he just get straight to the point. Nah, maybe a different approach. He could tell her he was a fan, but even that thought felt wrong. That's not how you make real friends. I heard you were part of the subjugation team during the practical exam, she said. He immediately tried to downplay it, saying he did nothing. That Hyun handled everything, but she cut him off. Your friend couldn't have done that alone. Her words had a certain authority to them. It was a total panic situation, she continued. But a first-year student handled it, and that advice you gave earlier. That wasn't something an amateur would say. He was about to make another excuse, but then just accused her of being overconfident. Yun playfully shot back, asking if he was trying to pick a fight with her. Obviously not, Jun Wu replied. He just wanted to know if they could actually get along. As she tried to end the conversation, she asked if he planned on joining the council. She figured he was just trying to network right now. But he didn't need to. His skills were already turning heads. He insisted he had no plans to join the student council, but again, she cut him off. She had one last thing to say, and trust me, her playful tone was gone. The deal was simple: get on the council, but leave her sister out of it. He remarked that the two of them were actually very much alike. Yun just looks confused. He continues to explain that Ian was the only one who wanted to join the council because she didn't care about it at all. She was only trying to get close to him. Why? Because she had a score to settle with Sikdu. Now watch this. Out of nowhere, Yun drives an elbow into his neck and slams him right into the wall. She explodes. Demanding to know if her sister had asked him for anything, he starts to talk, but she immediately cuts him off, insistent on getting an answer. Did Ian ask for help joining the council? Did she ask for his help with her revenge? Our hero's temper finally snaps and he braces to fight back. But the situation isn't that dire just yet. He simply shoves her away, surprising her. She recovers in a flash, though, launching a kick right at our protagonist. This time he's actually struggling to defend. He dodges another blow. Impressed by her skill, their eyes lock for just a second before the fight resumes. He realizes this battle is completely different from their last one. This level of the dungeon is tough even for the most seasoned management teams. But that thought gets cut short as the heroine launches another attack. Dodging her strike, he realizes he totally underestimated Yun Che. Her speed was astonishing. So why, he wonders, did she hold back so much on the street when she was clearly capable of all this? Her next attack comes in fast. And he dodges again, getting ready to counter, but he has another idea. He rips a bandage off his arm and flings it right in her face. And get this, the wild tactic actually works. Completely caught off guard, she's seized by the neck. Pinned to the wall, she gasps, demanding to know if Jun Woo's last move was against the rules. He just retorts, asking if there are even any rules at their school. She just remarks that he'd adapted remarkably fast for a special admission student. He tells her she's better than he expected. Then asks what really happened during the last subjugation. She replies that the whole experience was way different from what he probably imagined. The method didn't matter, it was all for the crowd's entertainment. That answer clearly pisses our hero off. His irritation is written all over his face. She asks what he wants. Nothing important, he snaps back. He actually needs to speak with Yun's grandfather. He simply wants her to get some weapons from headquarters for him. At that request, a look of complete confusion crosses Yun's face. She tells him it's impossible, she can't take weapons from there. Jun Wu mentions that he heard the devices were basically for show. And that Sikdu, as director of the support house, could easily get a few. But Yun counters that persuading her grandfather is a lost cause. No matter what the request is, just as the MC starts to speak again, a woman appears, calling out to our hero. The nurse, still holding the girl's shoulder, tells the protagonist he isn't allowed to fight in here. In an instant, the girl slaps his hand away and after a quick struggle, just walks off. He tells her he's looking forward to seeing her again. But she snaps back that she never wants to lay eyes on him again. And with that classic main character energy, you just know his reply is perfect. That'll be difficult. You're Sikdu's granddaughter, after all. Moments later, he returns to his room. Hyun asks him about the conversation with Cha. And yeah, it didn't go well, our MC admits. The boy isn't surprised at all. Then our protagonist asked if his relationship with the girl's grandfather was a little tense. Hun seemed thrown by the question, saying it wasn't bad, but definitely not good. It was more like they were just coworkers. Surprised, our hero pressed him. So they didn't have a family bond at all, and yeah, you're about to see how messed up this family is. The boy agreed. He then asked what our main character had discussed with Cha. He'd asked her to get something for him, but she said it was impossible. Hun wasn't surprised. His friend had never once asked her grandfather for a single favor. Just being around him was that intimidating. Our MC didn't get what he meant. Hun just replied that they couldn't talk freely there, laughing it off. He blamed our protagonist for the awkward spot, calling his request ridiculous. Young Woo wondered if maybe money would change things, but Hyun just laughed even harder. Turns out there was only one thing that would ever get Yun's attention. Now listen to this condition, because it is absolutely wild, to win Yun's favor. Young Woo would have to make Aeon drop her bid for the student council. He admitted he didn't know the reason, but he knew Yun hated her sister's guts. She couldn't stand her being at the academy. That detail clicked for our MC. He remembered the girl saying something just like that during their fight. Hyun suggested if our hero could convince Aeon to back down, they'd be set, but Young-woo cut him off. Someone was coming, a few hours later in a totally different place. The same woman from before sat on a plaza bench, lost in thought. The conversation she'd overheard between the protagonist and Hun was replaying in her mind. All that effort, all the political moves to get a seat on the council. Let that sink in. It was all for one thing, getting her revenge on Sikdu. But her current power level wasn't enough for the council, maybe not even enough to graduate. That's why she needed his help. The protagonist was only a first year. But he was insanely strong. With him on her side, she knew she could graduate. But getting his help now felt completely out of reach. It doesn't matter, she told herself. It's always been this way. Once again, she was going to have to do everything on her own. Then suddenly, footsteps. It was the protagonist. He walked right up to her. His first words, "Why are you acting so pathetic?" Then he asked if she was heading home. It was getting late, she said she was, but he had one more question for her. "Are you thinking about giving up?" Aeon was completely blindsided by that. She shot back, asking why he'd ever think that. Why would she surrender? He knew she'd say that. A small smile appeared on the protagonist's lips. Up until now, this specific conversation had never happened in the original story. Then he dropped a bombshell. He told her he had already fought Cha. Hearing that, her eyes widened in shock. "What are you even talking about?" she asked. He explained that he fought her, and that Yun was way stronger than he ever imagined. Their fight was bound to happen, a direct result of their intense rivalry. It just reignited old wounds and sparked a whole new conflict. This changed everything. He wasn't going to ask nicely anymore. He was going to threaten Yun directly. The girl was completely baffled. She said he was exactly what she thought, way too aggressive. She asked if he was joking, but he was dead serious. He was looking for her sister's weakness. Aeon questioned what kind of weakness her perfect sister could possibly have. And trust me, the answer is a total gut punch. He tells Aeon her sister's greatest weakness is her. Trust me, you need to see how this conversation plays out. He stressed she needed to focus, explaining that Uni led the student council. She was a top-tier hunter, and her grandpa basically ran the whole association. So he asks, why would someone with Uni's power even look twice at someone like Ahun? After all, no matter how hard Ahun trained, she could never hope to reach her sister's level. And there was a big reason Uni stayed away from the Hunter Academy. If the truth came out, it would completely destroy her career, or maybe she was just scared. Scared that Ahun might actually steal her spot. At that, the girl spits out her juice. She was confident in her skills. She knew her own worth. What he was suggesting just didn't add up, but he tells her to just make it add up. His words just left her completely baffled, so he offers to help. He promises he can get her ready to face Uni and find her one weakness, but that only deepens her shock. He pushes, questioning if she really has what it takes, a flicker of something. Crosses her face, a private thought, a moment of truth. And here's the part we've been waiting for. With pure determination, she declares she won't just succeed, she'll surpass her sister. He realizes this is exactly how it was meant to be. He stands. Enough, he says, the talk is over. They're running out of time. Training starts tomorrow. The goal, get her ready for a council seat. All before the second semester begins. She tries to say something, but he cuts her off. He confirms that's the plan, the Parents' Association and any group like it. They have to go. He turns to walk away, pausing just to ask if she understands. But before he can leave, the girl calls out his name one more time. Tears are just streaming down her face as she swears she'll never forget his kindness. Her heartfelt promise just hangs there in the air. All right, let's switch gears for a second. Over at a busy sushi place, someone checks in on their friend. They ask how the third piece of gyoza is, but the talk quickly turns to something else. It's about a boy's new attitude ever since he got into Class A. But another voice cuts in, calling for a celebratory toast. Jion, it seems, is just happy he passed. Suddenly, a figure appears in the doorway. It's the professor. He walks right in, not even trying to hide that he's late. He's instantly recognized. A quiet question spreads through the room. Was there an accident during the exam? Is the professor okay? The man just waves it off, saying nothing serious happened. This is the first-year Parents' Association meeting. Yoonmin announces it's time to get down to business. They need to start preparing for the next admissions period. With the semester ending, they'll start by reviewing all the required documents. Once everything's been checked, they sign them. He hands the papers over. First to Taehong's father, Jun-hun, then he keeps passing the stack around. All to some of the most influential people in the industry. Finally, he gets to the last person. Jusun's father, Minister Ming Jin, the guy who's been a problem from day one. The professor tells them all there's no need to rush signing anything. He asks if they have any questions. Young speaks up, curious about something. The practical exam from a few days ago. He heard a very special student passed it all by himself. He wonders out loud if that same student might be planning to run for the council. A ripple of shock goes through the entire room. But the professor, bold as ever, drops a bombshell. Our hero has shown zero interest. And yeah, you and I both know that's a lie. Trust me, you're about to see some high-level politics and backstabbing play out. He assured them they could relax, adding with a straight face that it was highly unlikely our main character would even bother applying. But the minister fired back a question. What's the professor's backup plan if he's wrong? Young Men just scoffs, dismissing the concern and assuring him it's all handled. He says it's obvious, and he will do absolutely everything necessary to ensure their success. With a slick smile, he promised to guarantee each of their kids a seat on the student council. The next day at Hunter Academy, our protagonist finally walks into his classroom. A moment later, a shout rings out, "He's here," and a wave of students surges toward our main character, absolutely swarming him with a barrage of questions. He's completely overwhelmed, with every voice demanding to know how he conquered the dungeon. How did he even get into this mess? Now, you're about to see why. A poster on the wall, his name, the number 1 score, he can hardly believe his eyes. The students keep swarming him, the questions continuing for minutes on end. His aura flares, a silent command for the crowd to part. He doesn't know any of these people. And he makes it crystal clear there in his way. A sudden shock ripples through the onlookers. This was not the Jun Wu they remembered. He moves toward his seat. She spots him. He admits he hadn't actually expected a perfect score from the professor. She replies that they weren't going to change the results anyway, which was why they had to reveal his true score. He finds a moment of peace staring at the stars. Jun Wu checks in on his companion, asking if she's sticking to his instructions. She responds that no one ever specified just how long the physical training would last. Our main character shoots down her argument about needing good weapons. He says raw strength is what really matters. She agrees but insists. Okay, get this, their hero needs to prep for final exams. Is this another dungeon? Our protagonist asks. Ain replies that it's a written test and a sparring match. The academy's exams are weird, he thinks. Why did students have to fight each other? He assures her. This is actually a huge advantage. She only needs to defeat one opponent. She wonders who that might be. The protagonist replies that it's obvious. Ju Hyuk is a clear contender for the council, and that's exactly why she has to beat him. His father, the minister, pulled strings after that incident with the professor's son, trying to ensure Ju Hyuk fails the course. This entire chaotic mess wouldn't have been possible without the Parents' Association getting involved. He explains that council members are chosen based on their exam scores, and he might not even qualify for the first round, but as long as she can defeat that boy, she'll sail right through the initial phase. The girl considers this. He presses her, asking if she's really unsure about it. She says that she will try. Our MC calls her out. Just try, she corrects herself. Determined to make it happen, she insists, I will make it happen. The protagonist is pleased. Great, starting tomorrow, we train in martial arts. And if you have the time, you can invite your friends. The girl's expression shifts. I don't have any friends, she admits quietly. Hearing this, his expression softens with pity, but she immediately shoots back, asking why he'd look at her that way when he doesn't have any friends either. And trust me, you and I are here for this dynamic. He asks why she'd think he's friendless, then names Wooik as a friend. But then he pauses, trying to think of anyone else. Nothing. He draws a blank. Suddenly, a half-forgotten conversation surfaces in his mind. The memory flickers. It's just out of reach. He can't grasp it. A sudden silence hangs over him. Ahun, noticing the change, asks if something is wrong, but Jun Woo's face gives nothing away. He just brushes it off as being distracted. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Hyeon is thinking about how unbelievably boring this place is. Being surrounded by his classmates actually wasn't so bad. He thinks about watching something on YouTube, reaching for his phone, and that's when he remembers his arm is gone. His face falls. A moment later, someone calls for Ji-Hoat's son, and the boy's spirits instantly lift. He asks if his dad didn't go to work today. The man says he talked to his team leader and managed to get some time off. He then asks how his son is feeling, and the boy replies that he isn't in pain. Now pay attention, because this next part hits hard. The man explains that his own father lost an arm on a raid. But he never gave up on his dream. In fact, he became an even stronger hunter. As long as his son keeps training, his left arm will get stronger day by day. The man then pulls something from inside his shirt. I found something, he says. Proof that the Parents Association was involved in that accident 2 years ago. Hyun just asks if his father is still obsessed with that. His dad wonders aloud if the test was planned from the start, but then quickly changes the subject. Hyun goes silent. Just as the man is about to say something else, the boy absolutely explodes, screaming at his father. He tells him to forget it. He got fired for that investigation, and they lost absolutely everything because of it. He yells, asking what he's still trying to do after all this time. And yeah, Hun might have gone too far this time. His father is left completely speechless. The boy says his investigation is futile. He'll never take down the Parents Association, and he's never going to hunt again. Hun cuts his dad off, refusing to hear another story about his grandfather. 40 years have passed, nobody believes them anymore. You have to wonder, is this boy really Hun's grandfather? After his son leaves, the father just sits on the bed, thinking. Elsewhere, our hero is asking his underlings if they've found anything new. The chubby one reports that classes C and D are clean, nothing suspicious. Pushing a little more, the hero asks about the other classes. The boy hesitates, saying it would be kind of weird to question kids from classes. And B, our hero, suspects he's just trying to figure out who wants to join the student council. But let's be real, these guys aren't exactly cut out for that kind of work. Acknowledging their effort, the boy offers them a reward. But the men, seeing that he's being sincere, tell him it's not necessary. The protagonist just tells them to accept the money from an adult and say thank you. He shoves the cash at them, losing his patience, and tells them to just take it. The chubby one points out it's only 1,001. He tells them not to feel bad about it. They can at least buy themselves a snack, but as they walk away, they realize it's not nearly enough to buy anything. Our protagonist mutters under his breath that they really are a couple of good lackeys. And as he watches them, you and I can see him remembering his own past, back when a small amount like 1,001 felt like a fortune, but that was then. Let's dive right in. The focus is razor sharp now, training Aeon to defeat Juke. The written exam, a total afterthought. He can only hope she's actually prepared. Because this fight is everything, Juke's skills are weak but still. They can't afford to take a single chance, the association's next move. Totally unpredictable, and training Yan is a problem. There's nowhere suitable to go. Asking Wook was a no-go. It was way too risky and would draw the wrong kind of attention. Just then, a voice calls out to Juke, who happens to be their third strongest competitor. His face lights up seeing his friend. The main character asks if Hyun had been discharged yet. Hyun explains he's just at school to handle some final paperwork. He heard our hero was helping Ion, and he got curious about how things were going. After hearing the whole story, the boy just nods. He gets it. He explains that for Class E, Academy access has major restrictions. Yeah, that's exactly what I was afraid of, our protagonist replies. Hyun then asks, so you're really planning to fight the association? Of course, he shoots back immediately. The main character then questions his friend's real motives. Hyun warns him that it won't be easy, that it could be life-threatening. Our hero just laughs it off. We've faced worse, we'll find a way. Hyun concedes the point. They did somehow survive that insane dungeon after all. He remembers it vividly, flashing back to the moment the walls started crumbling. Even the instant he shielded that arrogant brat, saving his life. The weight of the past settles on the guildmaster, a new wave of sadness. He wonders aloud how differently everything could have turned out. If the protagonist had just been there during that accident 2 years back. Our boy, of course, is totally confused by this sudden, weird comment. But just as quickly, Hyun waves it off, casually changing the subject. He says he knows of a place to train. The student council's private academy, hidden away right inside their offices. Meanwhile, the professor, acting all honest, looks at the boy before him. Jusuk, he declares, is in the most danger right now. The boy asks what he means. Jumin explains that our main character might actually try to join the council. The kid is shocked. And the tension in the room spikes. Pay attention, because the professor reveals something huge. Their hero didn't just pass without taking the test. He also single-handedly defeated a green rank monster. He saw it himself. There was absolutely no doubt. The kid, already scared, goes completely white at this news. Trembling, he cracks. He confesses his spot on the council wasn't earned, it was bought, a gift. From his father, the professor reminds him that parental influence has its limits. Jumin keeps pressing his point, while the other man just begs him to intervene. Juke's father declares that his son cannot afford to fail in his studies. He can't slip up now, the boy recalls when he first arrived here. And the man's promised to him a seat on the student council. Jum reassures him, telling him not to worry. He's got the answers. All he needs to do is memorize them and keep his mouth shut. The fight is the only thing that matters. The memory of being crushed by our hero is still painfully fresh. He admits that losing feels inevitable, but the professor just smirks, undeterred. He has a plan. From his pocket he produces a bracelet, and trust me, this changes everything. The same one Juk used against our hero. Jumin immediately identifies it as an unregistered B-rank bracelet, something the association knows nothing about. The kid is shocked. He says almost everyone in school is B-rank, and trust me, that's when it all clicks. The professor, without a hint of shame, just says that was the whole point. The minimum rank for hunters is B, and he demands his student use it. With a smirk, he calls it completely overpowered, basically a cheat code for the fight. He laughs, asking Jumin where on earth he got a hold of something like this. The professor explains it came from his father. Someone adds they heard Yum's father was on that subjugation team. Jumin, trying to change the subject, says that was a long time ago. He's already called in a senior to help his student. Someone to help him adjust to his newfound power. A moment later, they hear the door. Okay, don't blink, because this next part is a complete game changer. It's Inuit. The boy is in absolute disbelief, convinced this can't possibly be happening. And he's right to be shocked, because standing there is their second heroine. Incredible. With her help, he figures victory is practically guaranteed. The man tells him to listen. Obey her every command. He explains he made a special request, but never imagined she'd actually agree. He figures she must really hate the MC to show up. He then shifts the conversation over to the upcoming training session. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he tells her to look after her junior. She confirms she will. Deep inside the academy, Aeon spars with our protagonist. She's trying to get advice, but finds herself completely and totally outmatched. She can't land a single blow. Finally, she calls for a break, admitting defeat. This is just practice, she points out. Isn't he being a little too harsh? His reply, they need to train like it's real. She insists that if that's the case, then he needs to teach her how to properly use her abilities, just like everyone else. She can't just rely on her fists alone in a real fight, she argues. And I think we all know what comes next, right? Yang Wu sighs. It's easier to show you. He tells her to take off her gloves and come at him with her powers. She looks confused for a second, but our main character just goads her on. Think of it as real. Attack me seriously, he says, taunting her, or what, you think one punch is enough? Aeon is incredulous. She asks if he's out of his mind. She's not about to use her full power on someone who's completely unarmed. But Yang Wu warns her that if she keeps complaining, this training session is over. Fine, she activates her bracelet, and the system confirms her abilities are online. Flame magic ignites in her hands. Don't blame me, she says, if you get hurt. And with that, she charges straight for him, magic absolutely blazing. She unleashes a torrent of fire, but the hero dodges with almost no effort. In a flash, he closes the distance, grabbing both of her arms. A single powerful blow sends her flying backwards right through the air. She slams hard into the ropes. He just tells her to get up and attack again. Instantly, she ignites her flames once more, this time using her second-tier skill. She charges forward again, lunging at him, switching to close-quarters combat. He dodges her attack, not a bad strategy, he thinks to himself, but this time. He's not going to evade. He meets her rush with a punch, connecting squarely with her gut. Aeon hits the ground hard, and you are not gonna believe what the MC says next. She's confused, unable to land a single hit despite having the longer range. He explains that it's simple, an ability has to be woven into her movements. But she's so busy thinking about her next attack, she's fumbling the current one. Aeon looks puzzled. Isn't that normal? She asks. No, our hero replies. It creates a massive gap in your skills. Stop thinking about how to use an ability and just focus on how to attack. She claims she doesn't get it. He just smiles. Then you'll have to learn the hard way. He lunges forward. A punch flies straight for her head, and get this, even while attacking, he's coaching her. He's telling her how to defend and counter, unleash her full power the second she sees an opening. He honestly expected her to give up pretty quickly. But this girl has a surprising amount of courage. He wonders how long she'll last. And then suddenly it clicks for our heroine. For the first time, she dodges. She dodges his attack perfectly, lifts her leg, and prepares to counter. Now watch this. She lashes out, a powerful kick connecting squarely with his stomach. The blow sends him staggering back, almost knocking him completely off his feet. She unleashes a third-rank skill, surging forward to press her advantage. They're suspended for a moment, face to face in midair, eyes locked. Seeing this, she hesitates, her focus totally broken. In that instant, he strikes her chin. The world spins around her. In a flash, she's on the ground. The MC taught her that victory comes from exploiting an opponent's weakness. But pure skill and better gear aren't enough to actually use those openings and win. He asks if she finally understands the importance of mastering the basics. But he suspects her real goal was just to take him down for once. He points out how she instinctively threw an elbow strike without even thinking. She ignores that, still curious about who he really is. He asks why she's bringing that up now of all times. She says it just doesn't add up since they're the same age. And okay, I know what you're thinking, but her theory is wild. A flicker of fear even crosses his face. Did she somehow discover his deepest secret, that he's actually a reincarnator? She leans in, wondering aloud if her future husband is a secret agent trained since birth. The main character just shuts her down, telling her to stop talking nonsense. As they enter the academy, Gilwat remarks that he's surprised to see them there. Our hero and heroine greet Ken, who asks them how they've been doing lately. He notes it's been a while since they last trained together at the academy. She insists that she's totally fine, that the training was enough for her. Ken admits he spars with his father all the time, even though he usually loses. Our hero then asks him what his plans are for the future. Ken wonders why he'd bring that up so suddenly. Even if he leaves the council, he has to graduate. It's a thought that's been weighing on him. His entire life was geared toward becoming a hunter. And now that's impossible. A huge part of his life is just gone. The protagonist listens in silence, a wave of guilt hitting him as he remembers his own past. But then a flicker of hope. Actually, he says, it might not be impossible. Ken has no idea what he means. Our hero insists it's true. Trust me, you and I are about to see a friend's entire world get turned around. He can still be a hunter. Ken just thinks the MC is trying to cheer him up, saying things he shouldn't. And let me tell you, our protagonist wasn't just being casual. He insisted he wasn't. He was speaking from experience, bringing up the story of a hunter who lost his right arm. The guy lost it during a subjugation mission, but he absolutely refused to give up. In fact, his training got even more intense, pushing him way past his original strength. He had this habit of cutting the main character off, always saying the same exact thing. "As long as you're alive," Hyen would say, "you can still make things work." Our protagonist totally agreed, just as the kid was about to ask for the man's name. The protagonist explains his name is Chun and that he died a long time ago. That's why the boy's friend had no idea who he was, but then Gaoit drops a bombshell. Turns out Chong Hun was his grandfather. Even the biggest guy in their group was stunned. A few hours later, boom, an explosion rocks the academy's training grounds. It was Juke, of course, getting a little too wild with his powerful new bracelet. The antagonist just sneers, warning our protagonist to wait and see what he has planned. Now watch this, a voice cuts right through the tension, breaking up the stare-down. She gets that he's excited about his new toy, but she tells him to calm down. It's the second heroine, reminding everyone that this fight is only the second test. She knows Juke can't stand the main character, but he still needs to be careful. Using too much force would mean instant disqualification, and there are serious limits. Any techniques he hadn't revealed yet were completely off the table, not allowed. The boy just scoffs, claiming he doesn't need his real power for someone so weak. The professor, with a flash of admiration in his eyes, realizes just how skilled the kid is. Asking their heroine for help, it was a genius move on his part. He smirks, thinking this is definitely the end of the main character's winning streak. But then he remembers Wu Shik's words, the only person he ever feared was Jun Wu. That was Jun Wu from 40 years ago. Meanwhile, the real Jun Wu just keeps walking. He dismisses it as the ramblings of an old fool, completely lost in past glories. Okay, let's jump back a few years, to the subjugation exam headquarters. Our hero is asking about Chung Hun. The question is met with total surprise. The guy eyes our hero a little suspicious. "What's your boss doing here this late?" he asks. The hero explains with fewer dungeons around. His boss had gone out for a drink. Wook chimes in, saying they brought his favorite. That would be Chun Hyun, the leader of Team 2, and one of the talents our MC admires most. The protagonist asks where Hoon's companions are, just a casual question. "They just stepped out for a minute," Hoon explains. "They'll be back soon." "Then we'll wait," the main character decides, but Chung insists they start drinking now. His friend, our MC, thinks about Chung's one big weakness, the guy's love of alcohol. It had already been 5 years since they all became friends. Time flies. Without even realizing it, the three of them, Wiewick, Hoon, and him, had become inseparable. Over drinks one day, he asks Hoon if he's busy. Hoon admits that he is. He says it's busy but manageable. 8 months earlier, he'd lost his right arm in an accident. He tells his friend not to act awkward about it. It's just something he has to live with. Accidents, he said, were just a normal part of their dangerous lives. Our protagonist is at a complete loss for words. It just felt like such a massive waste. Then Chung asks a question that hits hard. Does a left-arm-only technique even exist? Something his friend might be able to teach him, but young Wu asks if that's really going to be enough. The man just tells him it's way too early to give up. "Trust me, as long as you're still breathing, you can make anything work." Hoon's body finally starts to heal, and his real training begins. Wielding a sword with his left hand is an absolute nightmare. A complete shock to the system after a lifetime of using his right. Still, he pushes through, mastering this impossible skill. He shatters every expectation. And his swordsmanship becomes even more lethal than before he lost his arm. And yeah, you heard that right. Chung's sword skills were just on another level. His friend comments on how tough the training must have been, but Chung just reminds him he asked for it. Suddenly, Chung is caught off guard, asking if his friend is still using that thing. Hoon nods, saying it's a symbol of all his hard work, a wooden practice sword he hopes to give his son Dong one day. This thing was never meant for a real fight, but it was perfect for sharpening his new skills. Wooick observes that Dong doesn't seem like the hunter type. asking why Hoon would give the sword to a son like that. Hoon just says if that's the case, he'll simply give it to his grandson instead. The protagonist just laughs, saying his friend will have to live a long, long time if he wants to see his grandson hold that blade. Wooik wonders if they're tempting fate. Cheon agrees, asking if their buddy has ever even seen a movie. A moment later, glasses clink in a toast. Their companion declares that they should all try their best to get eliminated as fast as possible. Outside the cabin, Jan Woo asks if Dong got hurt while he was playing. Hoon lets out a laugh, admitting he was afraid it was something way worse. He was just completely floored by what his son said. Smiling, Hoon repeats Dong's words. As long as I'm alive, I'll find a way to make anything work. The night goes on, with his friend bragging about his son every chance he gets. Meanwhile, outside the academy, Hyun walks up to the couple. He's holding a photograph, explaining he thinks he left it inside somewhere. The second he sees him, our protagonist almost bursts out laughing. The Zone 2 leader was famous for loving a good drink and a long talk, and was also the best swordsman he had ever met. His name was Kim Chong-hun. He remembers telling his friend to live a long life, to see his grandkids. The memory brings a wave of sadness over his face. You can tell he regrets those words now. She asks if Hun's grandfather passed away a long time ago. The boy says yes, explaining that he heard his grandpa died in some kind of accident. A heavy silence falls over our hero. The boy sees his friend's sudden change in mood and asks if something's wrong. It's nothing, the protagonist says. Hyun admits he's surprised. He had no idea Jun Woo knew anything at all about his grandfather. He keeps going, saying it's just hard to believe someone could become the world's strongest swordsman after losing their dominant arm. Our main character pushes back, absolutely certain that it's possible. The boy then says his friend and his father would probably get along, and that's when a thought strikes him. He hasn't checked on Dong in a while, so is your father okay? He asks. Hyun insists that he's fine, explaining he tried to get his dad to drop a case. It was an obsession, but his father flat out refused. Confused, our hero asks what case he's even talking about. The guy insists it has nothing to do. Let's dive right in. The conversation shifts to something that happened a few days back. Our main character had asked if anyone was eliminated during the student council elections. The kid confirms it somewhere, and this revelation just floors them both. It felt way too familiar, like that accident before the exam when the test was changed last second, and two students were literally crushed to death by falling rocks. So the main character asks if Dong was looking into that exact case. The boy confirms it. And get this, that is the very reason he got fired. It was like a cop trying to take over the entire parents' association. The outcome was basically guaranteed. He never stood a chance. This news clearly stuns our heroine. He then joined the council, but was completely ostracized. Only Yoon accepted him. Our main character then asks if the association's candidate had been involved, but Han shuts that idea down. He says it's impossible. The association only had 4 members, and their guy wasn't even taking the exam with them. Still, he can't let it go. He's wondering what might have been different if he'd just reached out sooner. She asks if that was why he saved that arrogant boy. Hun admits that sometimes, yeah, he regrets it. He feels his entire path to becoming a hunter was for nothing. Even with that risk, the thought of someone else facing elimination right before his eyes brought him a grim kind of satisfaction. He made his choice. A small smile plays on his lips. Then surprise, he bends down and picks something up. Now you're gonna want to see this. The guillotine blade. Hyun said it was Dong's only keepsake, a relic his own father had cherished for years. He remembers his friend vowing to one day pass the blade down to his own grandchildren. He asks Hun if he could just borrow it. The boy doesn't mind, but he's curious. Why, he asks. The main character explains that his friend had always doubted the truth of his grandfather's story, calling it impossible. Old stories are always exaggerated, the boy replies. Not this one, our hero insists. He then turns to Hun. Would you like to come and watch the next exam? A few days pass and the final exams begin. The first day is here. It's dedicated to general subjects. In the classroom, students are hunched over their tests. He's among them, completely lost, realizing he doesn't know a single answer. He hasn't attended a single class since enrolling, so how could he ever handle a math test when his whole life has been spent just fighting off monsters? Then he glances to his side and sees Juok. The guy appears focused, but there's a certain emptiness in his eyes, the look of someone who didn't really study. He probably just memorized the answers. If this cheating goes on, it could spell trouble. Big trouble for Go On. The young woman herself seems to be having a hard time. Her expression is strange. She looks unwell, and it starts to worry our protagonist. He remembers her perfect scores on the last written exams. He knows he has to trust her. He has to trust her, then a sudden sharp tap on his head makes him jump. It's a piece of paper, wielded by one of the teachers. The teacher, looking uncomfortable, tells him not to look around during the test. He just promises he will be ready for what's next. Several days go by, and on the fourth day, a voice suddenly echoes through the speakers. It's alerting all students that the final first-year test is about to begin. The combat exam. Every single first-year student is summoned to the main auditorium. It's finally starting, he murmurs, turning to the woman who will one day be his wife. Come on, he urges, we don't want to be late, and we all know the real test has just begun. All right, let's dive in. Inside the packed gymnasium, he remarks on the sheer number of people there. His friend just tells him to wait. A moment later, a look of surprise crosses his face. He's got this look of total shock, even though nothing special is happening in the arena. The crowd watches on, a low murmur rising from the stands. Too faint to make out. Among them, reporters are documenting the whole scene. Our MC wonders out loud if the exams are always this intense. Someone explains that this is the final exam for the semester, and the top students often go on to become council members. Jun Wu, his face unreadable, just takes in the spectacle, with even subjugations broadcast for everyone to see. Watching students with powers battle each other is, in the end, just another form of entertainment. An announcement suddenly echoes through the arena. The exam is about to begin. Now pay attention. A wave of disgust washes over our MC, adults broadcasting kids fighting for profit. To him, it's sickening. President Wook, the announcer declares, will now explain the rules of engagement. She says that the test rules apply to every student who has been training so hard. The first exam will pit two randomly selected participants against one another. The victor moves on to the next stage. Our guy just smirks, recognizing the rules as identical to the ones from his own past subjugation tests. The test goes on until one participant either surrenders or is defeated. Victory earns a single point. Defeat means no points, but no penalty either. Those with no points can re-enter as often as they like. However, a single point earned, then lost, means you're eliminated. Wook explains that while the special protective gear absorbs most of the impact, it is not foolproof. A warning follows: do not get carried away and do not be reckless with your abilities. And with that, the class test is about to begin. The announcer hopes for favorable outcomes for all. Immediately, the lottery for the upcoming fights begins. Two unremarkable students are selected, clearly destined to be just background extras. The announcers direct them to enter the arena and prepare for the test. The referee signals them to their starting positions, then calls the start. The red-haired student is the first to charge. His companion is taken aback by the sight. Incredible, she breathes. So this is how Class A students fight. Turning to her friend, she asks the protagonist for his opinion on the match. But a moment later, she is shocked. Wait for it, the boy is completely asleep. She asks why with Class A fighting. He just replies that the fight is a mess, nothing worth watching. Exhausted from sleepless nights studying for exams, he decided it was just time for a break. She questions his confidence, especially after seeing Class A's impressive abilities. She wonders what on earth he could be basing such a bold claim on. And just like that, those two extras vanish. A few hours later, the announcer declares that Class D's fights are finished. His friend nudges him awake. He stretches, sleepily asking if it's over. Yes, the girl replies, it is our turn now. The announcer calls for the Class E fighters to prepare. But then the students surge toward the exit, a wave of motion carrying them to the cafeteria. The arena, moments ago a roaring crowd, is now eerily empty. Our MC wonders aloud, and let's be real, are their classes' matches so dull that no one wanted to stay? But the girl beside him fired back that he was the last person who should complain, since he slept through the early matches. But then something on screen caught her eye. Jun Wu was watching the upcoming rounds. The kid greeted him, and he nodded back. The announcer declared that the introduction for the first fighter from Class E was about to kick off. He decided to save his energy. Picking an opponent with average skills seemed way more practical. The first match from our hero's class pits Ian against a girl named Jihai. Jun Wu watched, his face tight with worry. This was not good. Nothing was going according to plan, but Ian just reassured him, saying she'd handle it. Taking a deep breath, our heroine focused, telling herself to trust her training. Just follow what she learned. He had declared 10 consecutive victories. Nothing less. Ian looked confused. He explained their class had 20 students. She had to win 10 matches in a row. A small smile appeared on her lips. And that's exactly what she was going to do. The ref called for both fighters to take their spots. Now pay attention, because a moment later, the man signaled the start. The system announced that Jihai was authorized to use D-rank abilities. Suddenly, Ian's fist connected, sending the other girl flying to the ground. The announcer's voice echoed through the whole arena. Jihai is down. A wave of pure shock rolled through the crowd. The referee declared the first round a victory for our heroine. Even Hyun looked completely stunned. A murmur went through the stands as the protagonist watched, pride swelling in his chest. But then a flicker of doubt. Had that been a little too easy? I mean, could Ian really knock someone out without even using an ability? Then in round 2, she demolished another opponent. Her insane winning streak rolled right into the third round, taking down another nobody with absolute ease. The announcer confirmed Ian's advance to the fourth round on a streak of 3 straight victories. Whispers filled the crowd. Could she really be from the so-called trash class? Hyun noted her incredible progress, getting this strong in just 1 month. His gaze then drifted to someone else nearby. She probably has the same hidden talent as her friend, he thought. Go Yun watched the heroine fight. It's just a first-year Class E test, he continued, one nobody really cares about. He wondered if she was there for Ian's fight, or maybe for Juech. Yun shot back, asking what that had to do with anything. Wasn't her friend supposed to be helping Jun Wu and Ian? Hyun explained he couldn't have helped them alone. One of his juniors had promised to show him something interesting. That was the real reason he'd come. Yun was totally lost. She knew nothing about this. The announcer called for anyone who wanted to fight in the next round to step forward. But this time, nobody moved. The announcer declared that if no other challengers from Class E appeared, the matches were officially over. Then a single hand went up. It was Jusiok. The staffer pointed him to the arena. And trust me, you and I are about to see what a real plan looks like. Our hero was shocked. If Jusiok wasn't afraid after seeing Ian's power, he had to be hiding something big. Moments later, the referee called for both of them to take their positions. She knew this was it, her chance to finally face Jusiok, the real threat. Let's watch a classic matchup, skill versus pure borrowed power. The ref signals the start. And Ian immediately charges forward. Spectators see a reckless assault, but Juok simply smiles, then boom. A massive explosion rips through the arena as the students watch. In total shock, trying to figure out what the hell just happened, even the hero is caught completely off guard. He recognizes the signs of that specific power. Hyun turns to Yoon, demanding to know what she possibly taught Juak. That would let him do that. A nearby observer proudly asks Yun Chai of her. Protective gear is the reason she survived that blast, but he quickly shoots that idea down, noting her low endurance. Ian, lost in thought, realizes that's not the bracelet Juak normally wears. Where did he get this new ability? Juak claims people just help him out because of his powerful parents. That's how he got the item. Our heroine asks if he really thinks that's something to be proud of. He confirms it is, especially since it's an advantage she could never have. Ian bristles at his words. He then asks if she's getting all upset. Because he mentioned she doesn't have parents, she silently warns herself not to get angry, don't fall for his taunts. She remembers her hero's words. The first part of any battle is understanding your opponent. She had to figure out Juak's ability. Now, this is where you and I need to pay close attention. She concludes its rank must be far higher than anything she has, activating her magic. She tells herself there's only one way to find out. A blast of fire rockets toward Juak. I have no choice, she declares, but to keep fighting. He just laughs, asking if she seriously thinks some D-rank ability is going to make any difference here. She had reasoned that magic-type abilities have similar casting speeds, best for a long range fight, but in a flash, Juak unleashes another point-blank explosion. She manages to defend herself, thrown back only a few meters. She's puzzled by what she just saw. Even if he can control that strange new ability, its activation speed was bewildering. Is that even magic? He asks if she gets it yet, claiming his power operates on a completely different level than hers. It can't be magic, she thinks. Magic has cooldowns between uses. It's impossible to fire off attacks back-to-back like that. Could it be a combat enhancement, the only one? She knows that's even close is called beetle bombardment. She charges forward, shouting her defiance. He advances too, boasting that she's finally cracked the code, but it's far too late. He lands a blow, but the heroine holds her ground, and Ian's fist connects solidly with Juak's face. He curses. But Ian's reply is simple, knowing his ability was the key to all this. His skill, she explains, causes an explosion on physical impact, so she just had to prevent him from ever landing a clean blow. She's doing well, the hero thinks. If she'd mistaken it for some fire-based magic, getting this close would have been impossible. Stopping a magic user mid-cast is hard, so you usually have to exploit a defensive opening, but against an enhancement type, he'd need a new approach. With no delay between attacks, all magic-based counters were useless, and here it is. You and I just found the weakness. It's in the physical action itself. His sweeping attack leaves him wide open if countered. Nullify the hit, and the advantage shifts. But Ian knows this solution isn't foolproof. She has to be careful. The bully lunges. Her defense remains like a wall. He lunges again, only to be blocked. She fires back instantly with a devastating blow to his head. As she deflects his non-stop assault, a wave of confidence washes over her. She can do this. She will take Juak down. With that resolve, she moves. She seizes both his arms, and the system announces a user activation. Level 2 Flame Abilities. Our heroine unleashes a powerful kick. Juak braces for it, but suddenly, an explosion rocks the entire arena. The attack sends our heroine flying back several meters. Juak, annoyed, just scoffs. A little martial arts, and you think you're something special. You thought you could block me with your bare arms. He walks toward Aeon. It hits her like a truck. He can create explosions with a single knee. The guy gets in her face, warning her to learn her place, and a system announcement rings out. An enhancement ability is activating. Now watch this. He declares she needs to be eliminated and lunges, but a hand stops him cold. The protagonist steps in. Enough, he says flatly. If you continue, I will eliminate her. Aeon is out, the next fighter is our main character. The goon just sneers, saying their hero has finally decided to show up. But our guy ignores him completely, his eyes only on the heroine. Are you all right? He asks her. It's not over, she bites back. Go back. It's not your turn yet. He can see she's at her limit, still reeling from that blast. A surge of respect for her sheer tenacity fills him. You've already lost, he says calmly. The match is over. She tries to argue, but he tells her to accept it. After a long moment, Ian stops fighting. She walks out of the arena, refusing a stretcher, insisting she can walk on her own. A few moments later, our guy calls out to her, praising her for the fight and telling her not to get hung up on the loss. Ian, stunned by his words, just walks away as tears fill her eyes. The side character watches proudly, calling out to our hero, admitting he was worried the protagonist wouldn't show up at all. Our hero asks him if he didn't maybe go a little too far in his fight against the heroine. Seek just claims he went easy on her, that he even let her walk away. And okay, let's pause here. The MC calls him arrogant just for getting a B-rank ability. He then asks if he's forgotten about the warehouse, about the attack. The words just hang there, and you can see the man start to tremble. His ability, he continues, was nowhere near ordinary. Where did he get it? The guy asks why that even matters to the MC. He doesn't need to ask who gave it to him. He knows. He remembers someone claiming it was all an accident, that he was also a victim. He's suddenly struck by the insane resemblance between that man from his past and Junman. He even wonders if the professor could be that man's son. But the announcement for the second round cuts his train of thought short. Time to do what needs to be done. Hyun better pay close attention. He's not going to be showing off his skills forever. Meanwhile, Hyun is watching from the sidelines, wondering if his friend is actually going to fight one-handed. The background character just laughs. There's a limit, he says, to how much the MC can look down on his opponents. Does he really intend to fight with one hand? Joss's aura flares to life. He screams that he will beat him. And with that, he starts activating a skill meant to absolutely crush the protagonist. He unleashes it. All right, we're jumping right in as every single punch sets off a massive explosion. The shockwaves are so powerful they're rocking the stands in the distance. Flames are just raging through the arena as the boys' attack continues. For 7 straight panels, this non-stop barrage on our hero just keeps coming. Hyun points out that this was supposed to be the first fight of the year. But it's already escalated into something absolutely insane as the attacker stops. With a laugh, he asks if a little bit of athleticism really makes the hero special. He scoffs, saying abilities are what truly matter in this world. No amount of showing off can ever close the power gap between them. But our hero just says that kids these days are completely hopeless. And this is where our guy finally speaks, calling out their reckless attacks. He adds that they think just going wild is the answer to everything. Gripping a wooden sword, he asks why the boy fought so blindly and carelessly. Juke just argues back, that doesn't make any sense, you didn't get hit once. Our protagonist scoffs, the kid's an idiot, his explosion's range is only 1 meter. The arena is way bigger, he didn't even have to dodge a single time. The main character charges forward, declaring he's about to teach him a real lesson. The boy is confused at first, but then he sees his chance. This is perfect. He lunges in, throwing a punch straight at the protagonist. But then he stops dead, pure terror flashing across his face. Our hero countered, striking the boy with the wooden training sword. Juak is stunned. What happened to his ability? It didn't even activate. He trembles as the protagonist just stares at him blankly, one hand held out.